What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of LTMB Live. I'm Will Gaillard.
And I'm Mike White.
My man, what's going on, man? Let me see. Yeah, we make sure everything's working all right. No, we ain't got the names up, but that's okay. You know who we are. We're glad to be here. Like I said, we got much to talk about, just like any other show. Glad that some people are already here. I'm sure we will have some more join us along the way. I'm just going to let a few seconds roll by. We did put out a notice on Facebook trying to invite that crowd to join the mix.
Because maybe they don't know that.
Maybe not. Maybe not. You know, our exposure on Facebook is somewhat limited. Not reaching everybody, but you know what I'm saying? We're trying to make that effort. But yeah, definitely share this stream to all your social media platforms if you would. That would be a huge, we appreciate that. Much. What's going on? Ditzalig, I believe. I don't think I ever said that before. Jose, what's going on, man? Everything's good. Like I said, we got a full show. We're going to be talking about some corruption. We're going to be talking about some police activity. I said something, what, police inappropriate behavior?
Yeah, you were very lenient with the vocabulary earlier.
Yeah. Well, I'll just keep it at police activity.
Typical police activity.
Yeah, too typical, man. What's up, L Train? L Train.
Yo, so always be clowning, man, for real.
Oh man. All right. Everybody feeling good? How's the audio? How's the video? We always get this. Y'all probably don't know what we're talking about, but when you do a live video on YouTube, you know, it lets you know about the stream health. And we always get some like average health right at the beginning, but it looks like it's doing well. So hope it's not a problem. And then after about 5 minutes, you know, it tells us everything is good. But you know, like I said, we got a full plate. Yeah,
we got a bunch to talk about.
Make sure this junk is working. Bam, there we go. See, now you know who we are and which ones we are. We have noticed sometimes people be calling me Mike, people calling you Will.
Whatever.
I don't know how.
What's the name of the person on the left? Hey, get out of here.
I'm saying, right? All right, man. So let's get started. Yeah, let's get started. I want to make sure I have something up because I'm going to have to refer to this right here. Some surprising information. All right, so let's get started, okay? House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi cleared a major hurdle yesterday on Wednesday. She cleared a hurdle into reclaiming her spot as the next leader of the House, the Speaker of the House. So in a closed-door vote, Pelosi was nominated to the roll call on January 3rd, and it wasn't close. She obtained 203 votes for her, and against her there were 32 noes. So, like I said, was not close whatsoever. She does need to get to 218 votes by January 3rd if she's going to become the next speaker, to reclaim her spot as the Speaker of the House. I believe her and others that are on her side that are supporting her believe that in the weeks to come, she's going to be able to make up that difference. But here's some video of her speaking after the closed door vote and what she expressed as, you know, a beautiful day.
We had a most unifying session just now. In the House Democratic Caucus, the new House Democratic Caucus, the most diverse caucus ever. And it was so inspiring to hear my colleagues place my name in nomination, once again, for Speaker of the House. How moving it was to hear Joe Kennedy place the name in nomination, to be seconded by Kathy Castor, a colleague who has been in the lead on climate change issues and the rest. Of course, Joe, a friend for many years, but a leader in the Congress making his own mark. And then to have Joyce Beatty speak in her own right, but to quote President Obama, it was very moving. The emotion demonstrated by my colleague, Adam Schiff, when he talked about leadership and the challenges facing our nation, was a joy to behold. And the new members, to have the new members speak out with us now is Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, one of the new members who spoke and placing my name in the nomination about our shared values. We are also joined by a member who's very special to me because she's a new member of this. She's a member of this class, but she is also a returning member. Ann Kirkpatrick of Arizona, a woman of great courage who voted for the Affordable Care Act, didn't come back, said it was worth it, and is here again. Thank you, Ann, for joining us. And of course, nobody could ever have an honor quite like having this display of friends place my name in nomination than to have John Lewis be he wrapped it all up in such a beautiful way. Not about me, but about our challenges and about our need to be unified for the future.
So, a beautiful time in the Democratic Party. To be in the Democratic Party. A beautiful, beautiful time.
Oh, you mean like a time where they're making obvious changes to their leadership?
Yes.
You know what I'm
Yes. They are upgrading things. You know, this is not the same old Democratic Party, man. They want to really, like I said, we always talk about them wanting to invite more people in, a more diverse crowd.
What do they call the Democratic Party? The
big tent
party.
umbrella?
The big tent party. They have a big umbrella.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? They encourage all likes of diverse opinions and viewpoints into the party.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
you know what DWS said. You know about the grassroots organizers.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah. But hey, like I said, she did get 203 votes in this closed door vote. In this closed door, meeting. So I mean, it does seem that it's likely that she will get to the required number, 218 votes. Now, with that being said, there is still significant opposition to her. So before the vote, there was a meeting at Nancy Pelosi's office, and that featured three of her most prominent, the three of the most prominent people from the opposition campaign, and that includes Representatives Kathleen Rice, Seth Moulton, and Tim Ryan. Tim Ryan is notable because back in 2016, he actually challenged Nancy Pelosi to become the minority leader, the top leader in the Democratic Party.
But how much does that opposition matter, knowing that there's plenty of Democrats that actually support her being Speaker?
Well, okay, so look at it like this. That closed door vote that they held, there were no other challengers that were nominated.
That's the thing.
That were even proposed to be a candidate.
So what you're saying
it was just her.
Like, kind of, if it's empty opposition. Because if you are opposed to her being Speaker, but you're not hoisting up someone else, then what good is it? It seems inconsequential.
It means like it just seems like you're just opposing her just to oppose her, because she is a target, especially for the GOP. They use her as this target and like, hey, this is Nancy Pelosi politics and the liberal agenda and the Nancy Pelosi agenda, blah, blah, blah.
Do you think maybe like for example, that letter that was signed by those 16 Democrats that were really centrist anyway.
Right.
Do you think that was kind of like strategic positioning, even though they knew Pelosi was going to make it through and become Speaker? You think they were just doing that to make it make it look like they were, willing to work with the other side?
It could be. Like you said, you noted that they were centrist in their politics.
Mm-hmm.
The opposition is either centrist or is maybe just like her. Like if you examine these three people that I just noted, Kathleen Rice, Seth Moulton, and Tim Ryan, they're really all the same. I mean, they're pretty much all the same, with the exception of, I believe, Tim Ryan. Tim Ryan, I think he's to the left of the other two. The other two, again, they're establishment Democrats. I believe all of them take corporate money. You would think that these type of politicians, these type of Democrats would be on the side of Nancy Pelosi, because there's not a lot of daylight between them and Nancy Pelosi. Tim Ryan, he's the one that says that he is for Medicare for all. The other two don't really say that at all. They don't go that far. They're like, hey, what we need to be doing is preserving Obamacare and, combating the GOP agenda, blah, blah, blah. Tim Ryan is actually on that new caucus, the Medicare for All caucus. But if you actually hear him speak about it, he goes as far as saying that Medicare should be lowered to 50, the age of 50, so that people can actually buy into it.
So it's almost
it's not really like the Medicare for
it's
all.
It's not Medicare for all. It's almost like a halfway step.
Yeah, it's not what is music to our ears or anything like that.
We've heard that before.
Yeah.
Yes, Patrick Valencia. We understand Barbara Lee exists, but did Barbara Lee put herself out there?
No,
that's the question.
Yeah, Barbara
so
Lee
yes, we're aware of Barbara Lee, and kind of we vouch for her too, but she didn't put herself out there. The conversation should stick to who put themselves out there as a candidate, and if nobody did, then where does the party go next, or where do you think the party should go?
So these three that went to Nancy Pelosi's office, they went there with the intention of getting some clarification of when Nancy Pelosi would step down from leadership. They wanted somewhat of a firm date, or at least like a deadline or something like that, to where Nancy Pelosi would say, okay, I'm bowing out. Maybe I'll stay in my role as a representative from California, but I won't be leadership in the House anymore, because there has been a lot of talk about inviting new leadership, younger leadership into the House. But she was having absolutely none of it. And I don't blame her. I don't blame her at all either, because think about, they want her gone right now. Okay. And to be sure, to be clear, I want her gone too. I just don't see any other candidates that are to the left of her. But if they want her gone, okay, cool. They want her gone now, which isn't going to happen, or by 2020. Now, 2020, that would make her a lame duck leader. That would make her a lame duck speaker, right? Going up into 2020. Like, why would you put that kind of cap on yourself to say, okay, you know what? I'm only going to take this for 2 years and then 2020 I'm out. Yeah, that's the best course of action. That would make absolutely no sense. I don't care who it is. That would make absolutely no sense.
And to be clear, when Will says no candidates to the left, he doesn't mean that there's no one to the left of her.
No one to the left that is running against her. He just means that there's no candidates. That means there's nobody that put themselves up. Right.
So I think that's important to clarify, because I think a lot of people miss that point.
So she has a lot of work to do. There's a few weeks before that roll call vote that's going to take place on January 3rd. She has some work to do to get some of these detractors and some of these people that are in the opposition camp. Can she do it? I think it's probable. I think it's probable that she will get to 218, because if you take the 203, she needs 15 more votes. It's possible. They will have at least 234 in the House. Yeah, they'll have 234 in the House. So, like I said, it's very probable that she will reclaim her gavel as Speaker. I'm not thrilled about it, but then again, like I said, I'm not just going to be a contrarian just to be a contrarian. I'm not just going to say, since I oppose her in many areas, she should be gone and we should elect somebody that's worse than her. No. Not going to do that. So, and other news too, somebody did bring up Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee was trying to become the Democratic caucus chair. And it seemed like she would become the Democratic caucus chair,
because she was kind of she was the sole person that was vying for the position.
Right. It looked like there was a lot of support behind her, and then not so much. Seems like a lot of people flipped.
Well, I would say not just a lot of people flipped. It seemed like, the corporate lackeys put someone else's name into the mix.
Yeah.
Conveniently put somebody else's name into the mix.
Yeah, at like the 11th hour.
Oh, yeah. Because they were like, oh, shit, we got to put somebody up in there.
Yeah. And so that other person that they put up there actually did win. That's Representative Hakeem Jeffries from New York. So he won in a vote of 123 to 113. So he's going to be the next caucus chair. Representative Jeffries is not a progressive. He's not a progressive at all.
Yeah. Former lawyer for CBS and Viacom. Mm-hmm. He supports the Amazon deal in New York. Mm-hmm. He also approved of Israel Army military shooting at Palestinian protesters. He takes corporate PAC money as well.
Yeah. And actually, just recently, it was in the news. Earlier this year, he was one of the co-sponsors of the initial First Step Act. The First Step Act was that prison reform bill that we talked about earlier this year and just a few weeks ago. Now, the initial bill was complete garbage. It was trash, because all it really addressed was dealing with the afterlife of prisoners. Like, once they get out of prison, like, how are they going to reacclimate to society? How are you going to make recidivism rates drop? Stuff like that. It had nothing to do with sentencing. Had nothing to do with keeping people out of jail and addressing mandatory minimum sentences. It had nothing to do with that. And this is what this guy, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, that's what he co-signed on. So it was a bipartisan approach, no doubt, but that's what he signed off on. And again, I'm glad that that bill is not getting anywhere, because they actually did go forward and adjusted, and they are addressing sentencing. So that's good. But that just tells you like where his politics is.
Where his politics is. I remember in 2016 election cycle, he referred to Bernie Sanders as a gun-loving socialist with zero foreign policy experience. Which means nothing.
Does that make any sense?
No, it makes sense. It's stupid, but it's stupid, but it still makes sense if you're talking about it, like, I guess, in regard to like how most of our representatives view foreign policy. When somebody says a person doesn't have foreign policy experience, that's seen as a bad thing, but I think that's a good thing. Because really what they're talking about is, hey, this person does not always side with the American empire every time we go to war.
Oh, they're not a war hawk.
They're not a war hawk.
Yeah.
So yeah, he told me who he was when he said that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not a good scenario here. Like we said, Nancy Pelosi reclaiming leadership is not
ideal.
Preferable. Yeah, it's not preferable. It looks like it's the best option, not preferable though. And then for the Democratic caucus chair and Hakeem Jeffries, again, it's a big
we're just not going to get enough done. You have like
those types,
and then and progressives just sprinkled within Democratic Party or within Democratic upper leadership. It's just not going to happen when progressive is just sprinkled throughout there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure
there needs to be like a more of a kind of a dominant presence there to actually challenge these leadership positions.
I'm sure the progressives, especially the new progressives that are coming into office, I'm sure they're going to make noise. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one of them, representing New York's 14th district. She is very noisy. She says what is on her mind. She makes that very known. So we do need that, because we don't have those types of people that hold these leadership positions. And we don't know when that might happen in the Democratic Party. So they do need to be loud outside of Congress. And hopefully that will push the party along in the right direction. So, all right, moving on. On Tuesday, a surprising majority of U.S. senators voted to advance a bill that seeks to end the Yemen War, or seeks to end the U.S. involvement in the Yemen War. The legislation is authored by a bipartisan group of senators: Independent Senator Bernie Sanders, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy, and Republican Mike Lee. And the vote was 63 to 37, with all Democratic senators and 14 Republicans voting for it. So again, this is pretty monumental. Because up until now, the conversation about U.S. involvement in the Yemen War was very subdued. There have been efforts before to at least talk about it. If this sounds familiar at all, it is because these same group of senators, Mike Lee, Chris Murphy, and Bernie Sanders, they brought this resolution to the Senate all the way back in March, and it was completely blocked by the GOP. At the time, at the time, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said on the Senate floor, quote, "Withdrawing U.S. support would increase, not decrease, the risk of civilian casualties, and it would signal that we are not serious about containing Iran or its proxies."
You think them bringing forth this resolution now was strategic, based on maybe a certain situations happening with a dead journalist?
Yeah.
Using the opportunity that Trump has created.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? To kind of put this out there right now while it's kind of out in the forefront, because it's always been an issue. It's just that it's always kind of taken a back seat. It's been in the background. So this whole Khashoggi thing kind of like sparked more conversation about it. Unfortunately, the death of one journalist did that in Saudi Arabia's cover up, but that's just how it is. And I do think that it was kind of a smart move to kind of put this resolution back in the public eye.
True. And it, like you said, you called it, this did happen because of the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. And it was at this time that Democrats and a lot of Republicans were saying that they believed that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they were responsible for that murder. The CIA reportedly has concluded that it did come from the Crown Prince, the Saudi Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. Now, there has been some pushback on that. Actually, before this vote, there was a meeting with all the senators, and that included Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. So reportedly, they tried to convey the message to senators that there was no piece of intel that proved that Saudi Arabia actually, well, at least the leaders in Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman and his father, the king, they had no knowledge about this and they did not order it. So they were really pressing that on these senators before the vote. And then after that meeting, there was some word from some Republican senators was like, that did nothing for Lindsey Graham from South Carolina. He came out of the meeting saying, well, that meeting didn't accomplish anything for me. I believe there was another Republican senator that said similar things. So again, like you said, this was the prime opportunity to do something about it. It just makes it's just a shame that it had to come to this. Before this happened, there have been thousands of civilians killed at the hands of these bombings that are happening in Yemen. And the U.S. has direct involvement in this because they are supplying Saudi Arabia with weapons. They are refueling planes, or they were refueling planes very much. Weeks ago. Yeah, just until a couple weeks ago. They were providing Saudi Arabia with tactical assistance, things like that. So we definitely have blood on our hands. Just, a couple months ago, there was a bombing on a bus that killed dozens of children. Like, this did nothing to move the needle.
Yeah.
But Jamal Khashoggi got killed, and these U.S. leaders are blaming it on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And so now, we got to do something about the Yemen war.
I mean, the amount of human casualties has resulted in UNICEF declaring this one of the worst humanitarian crises ever.
Yeah.
And we could
infection,
and
death.
we can kind of focus the conversation on Trump's defense of Saudi Arabia because of maybe some business interests, some loyalty he has for them. But, Will just highlighted the fact that our Secretary of State, along with some military generals, are doing the exact same thing. And who kind of has more authority or influence in regard to, military actions? They do. As much as Trump, pumps his chest, they hold the keys. So if our own Secretary of State and our military generals are kind of co-signing Trump's defense and backing up Saudi Arabia in this one instance of them murdering a journalist, to me, it's not even about that journalist. To me, it's more about them kind of offering cover in this situation so they could, I guess, still remain involved in Yemen.
Yeah. Because, look, Trump has told you many times, he has made excuses for Saudi Arabia, for the kingdom, saying that, hey, there's no piece of intel. I have the report. He said he has the report from the CIA. There's no piece of intel that states that they are responsible. They have denied it many times, strongly denied it, just like Putin did about interfering in the elections, all of this. So it just seems like he kind of caves to power, or he caves to what's in the best interest, maybe financially.
It doesn't have to say they were actually responsible.
It does not.
My thing is, what does say that? Evidence.
Yeah.
Evidence points to culpability.
And lies do too. Because after the murder, what did Saudi Arabia do? They lied consistently about what actually transpired. First of all, he left the consulate. We have video. No, he left the consulate. Then they got a body double or something like that.
So yes,
then it was because of a fight that went wrong, an interrogation that went wrong. So you lie about it, but we're supposed to believe that you had no hand in it. No, come on, man. Just use common sense, and like you said, look at the evidence too. So anyway, this vote that they had on Tuesday, it doesn't mean that the U.S. is going to pull out of this Yemen war, out of this Saudi-led coalition, and stop providing tactical assistance and all this. Doesn't mean that yet, because as we reported many times in the past, this resolution wasn't about that. The resolution was about having a debate on if we should be involved in this war or not.
It's not even really a war resolution or a Yemen resolution or
Not
Saudi
yet.
Arabia resolution. It's more a conversation resolution.
Yes. And
That's like the
finally,
first step.
and finally they were able to advance this step so that they can get to the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not terribly optimistic, but any, I guess, push of the needle in the right direction is a good thing. I do think it should go further, though. I guess once we get beyond this kind of resolution that involves a conversation, at least, I think we should, I guess, take it a bit further and demand that Saudi Arabia get the hell out of Yemen and immediately remove that blockade.
Oh yeah, you know that's not going to happen.
Like if we really, or how
happen.
about no more arms sales? Like if we're truly going to do a 180 on this, you know what I'm saying? If that's the goal.
You remember the statement that Trump, that long statement that Trump, what was it about? What was it? The subtitle was America First. That's what it was. And it talked about the strong relationship that the U.S. has with Saudi Arabia and all of the job opportunities that comes from it. And of course, that means,
I think
the defense contractors, the contractors.
I'm not sure if we highlighted that on the last show, but the amount of jobs is not even that much.
No. It's not enough to turn a blind eye to civilians
it's not
being
about
murdered.
the jobs. It's about maybe a few people that are at the precipice of these defense contracting companies and corporations getting buku bucks.
Yeah, man.
I don't even like saying that. Buku. That's about as worse as your greenback word.
Well, like you said, I don't. I second that notion that I don't have a lot of optimism that they're going to actually sign off on ending the U.S. involvement. I just don't have a lot of faith that they'll do that.
You know what's interesting? I was about to get high-pitched like Tucker Carlson for a second. But you know what's interesting about our allies? It's like we let them get away with a whole lot. You see what I'm saying? Like any country that we consider an axis of evil doing anything like this, we're talking about regime change, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm definitely not advocating for that, not at all. But it just seems like the shit our allies get away with it, without us intervening, is just interesting.
Didn't we supposedly, or not supposedly? No, didn't we send off some rockets at Syria?
Yes, sir, we did.
Didn't we do that?
Oh yes, just because there was a conspiracy about people being gassed.
Yes.
There wasn't. Muggs didn't even investigate really.
No.
We sent those missiles off before the investigation was complete. We just needed a few I guess some video footage and some accusations, and that was enough. So if that's enough to send bombs in Syria, send missiles in Syria, why isn't thousands of dead civilians enough for us to move forward in this Yemen resolution?
Dozens of children.
No, conversation.
Conversation. Dozens of children killed on a school bus. And Donald Trump has an interview and says, Saudi Arabia doesn't know how to use it.
They don't know how to use it. They don't know how to use it.
That's why it happened. Man, it's sick, man. It's real sick. But again, it's a step. It's a good first step, at least. We haven't gotten to this step yet. So, like I said, there have been many, along the way that have been trying to get past this step. In the House, there's been a Ro Khanna that's been trying to move forward something through the House, through the War Powers Act, and he has gotten nowhere. So maybe something will actually happen, but like you said, I'm not optimistic.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic because pretty much what B Cubed pointed out, haven't seen her comment in a while, and she says the U.S. doesn't care about morals. The comment's not that short, but that's kind of the highlight of the comment. The U.S. doesn't care about morals, and until then any involvement we have with other countries is going to be tainted with self-interest.
Yeah, it's not a priority. Morals, integrity. It's not a priority. All right. Let's get to Thomas Farr. All right. So on Wednesday, Vice President Mike Pence cast the tie-breaking vote to advance a very controversial judicial nominee to the final vote to the Senate floor on Thursday. So the nominee is Thomas Farr. He was nominated by President Trump, and he's seeking to become a United States District Judge of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of North Carolina. So the reason Farr's nomination is so controversial is because of his past, a very jaded past, in which he has worked for and argued in favor of suppressing voting rights. In 1990, Farr worked on the re-election campaign of Senator Jesse Helms against Democratic challenger Harvey Grant, who's a black man. The campaign is remembered for infamously sending cards to black residents containing inaccurate information about voting eligibility, leading them to believe, the black residents, leading them to believe that if they showed up to vote, that they would be arrested.
That was a long time ago, though, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he could have turned over a new leaf since then.
Almost 30 years, right?
Yeah.
He could have. But no, he hasn't. More recently, he was hired by the North Carolina GOP to argue, he was hired by the North Carolina Republican legislature to defend the racial gerrymandered congressional districts that the Republican legislature created, and also to defend a voter ID law. Both of those measures were struck down by the court system.
I believe we've done a few segments on North Carolina.
And gerrymandering? Yes, we have.
Yeah. We didn't do a few segments on North Carolina to talk about Tar Heel basketball.
Nope.
Or Duke basketball.
It was about the congressional
districts that are gerrymandered in North Carolina. Isn't it kind of a coincidence that this guy was involved in that?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
But I mean, are you surprised though? I mean, are you surprised with Pence's decision?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I mean, a person whose career is built around suppressing the vote of people who don't vote for Republicans, like why would we be surprised?
Again, I noticed this. I noted this on the last broadcast. Since 2000, the Republican Party has only won one presidential election if you're talking about the popular vote. So they know they have to do certain things. They have to play certain games to actually keep their power, to keep control of these state legislatures and to keep control of the Senate or the House or whatever. They have to play these games and suppress the vote because the majority of people don't really vote in favor of Republicans.
And it's only going to get worse. As far as their tactics, I do think that there are certain states, and we highlighted some of those states that had ballot initiatives that involved redistricting. And there was a couple of them that even had ballot initiatives concerning like independent party overseeing elections and whatnot.
Right.
So I do think there's some progress being made in that regard. So unfortunately, I think that the GOP's push to use suppressive tactics is only going to get worse. You know, when you're backed into a corner and you know you don't have the numbers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because essentially, progressive is just the natural order of things, and they know that.
Said, right. And luckily, coming off of Election Day, the Democratic Party flipped seven governorships, so that's good news. And then in a lot of state legislatures, they are still, a lot of them are still Republican control, but the amount of control that they have, like the power that they had, has been decreased because there's more Democratic representation now. But this is notable just for who Thomas Farr is, but it's also notable because the one black senator in the U.S. in the U.S. Senate, Tim Scott from South Carolina, right here, he actually voted to advance his nomination to a final vote today on Thursday. And so there was a lot of, interest in how he was going to vote and why he even voted to advance Thomas Farr yesterday. Because now, look, a lot of people believe Tim Scott to be, a patsy, not a patsy, like a pawn, pretty much. Like he just does what the Republican, the leadership wants him to do. He just signs off on it. Very early on,
he's a blackface.
Yeah, very early on, you rarely heard him speak. he just seemed like he was just a placeholder. He was just gonna be a good dude, just do the bidding of the Republican Party. Then he got a little bit more vocal, and there have been times where he actually has talked about racial profiling as it relates to him, because he's talked about how he's faced problems just being in the United States.
At his job.
Yes, at the
his
Capitol.
job, at the State House.
Yes. So he's also talked about, racial equality. He's talked about civil rights. So noting all that, for him to advance somebody like Thomas Farr to the final vote was
counterintuitive.
Yes, it was very interesting. And there was a prior case where there was another Donald Trump nominee, and I can't remember that guy's name, but he didn't support him as well because he had some past of, saying some very racially charged statements, stuff like that. So again, a lot of, emphasis was on how Tim Scott was how he was gonna vote in the final vote. And just to include the reason why Mike Pence had to cast a tie-breaking vote is because of Jeff Flake as well. So Jeff Flake, a Republican, and he's an outgoing Republican, or he's from Arizona. He has stated that he is not going to vote for any Trump judicial nominee until some legislation is passed protecting the Robert Mueller investigation, or protecting Robert Mueller from being fired. So he is out on all of these judicial nominees, whether he supports them or not. So that's why, without him, Republicans only had 50 votes. And that's why Pence had to.
It's definitely important to kind of highlight the context of Flake's, dissension is definitely different from Scott's.
It is very different because with, let's say that there was Trump was, or not Trump really, but let's say that the other Republicans in the Senate was like, okay, we'll back this.
We'll back this. He's like kind of lone wolf here.
Right, yeah. If they back
and then he's, as we've talked about many times, he's moving on.
Yes.
And if you think about, I guess what he's trying to use as some sort of, I wouldn't call it bait, but I guess he's trying to use as some sort of bargaining chip. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, if it's directed at Trump, which it is, Trump is going to self-serve. Mm-hmm. I think Trump is willing to give up his ability to appoint judges if it's to save his own ass. So at the end of the day, it's kind of it's a good chess move, but not with Trump. It would be a good chess move with somebody else, but with Trump, I just think that he is more willing to save himself. You know what I'm saying? I think he'd be willing to forego his ability to appoint who he wants as federal judges if he can save his own skin.
And this has nothing to do with Flake's integrity because
Flake
I think
votes with Trump on 97%
if Flake did get what he was asking for with Mueller, he would have voted to approve or advance Thomas Farr's nomination. So anyway, all the eyes were on Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina today. And he came through.
Change his tune?
Dude came through. Tim Scott came through, man.
I tell you what, I never thought I'd be able to say that.
Man,
we are both South Carolina residents.
Tim Scott, senator from South Carolina, actually came forward and changed his. Well, we can't know what his opinion was yesterday because he did vote to advance Thomas Farr's nomination. But today, he said that he could not support him. So in a statement, he said, I am ready and willing to support strong candidates for our judicial vacancies that do not have lingering concerns about issues that could affect their decision-making process as a federal judge. This week, a Department of Justice memo written under President George H.W. Bush was released and shed new light on Mr. Farr's activities. This, in turn, created more concerns. Weighing these important factors this afternoon, I concluded that I could not support Mr. Farr's nomination.
Okay. Did those factors exist 48 hours ago? Did those same factors he just talked about? Again, we still want to, make light of the fact that he, like you said, he came through.
He came through.
But all the factors that he just highlighted himself in that statement, did those factors exist 48 hours ago?
They existed damn near 30 years ago.
I know. I was just trying to find
Damn near 30 years ago, they
I'm just saying because I was trying to find the kind of the most recent perspective that Scott had.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And it was as recent as 48 hours ago.
Yeah. No, 24. This was yesterday.
See, I was trying.
Dude,
I
heard 48, but I was like, hold on, that sounds wrong.
See, I was trying to give him a man a little more space to make a very abrupt 180 seem less suspicious. Okay, I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I was trying to extend it one day, just to give him the benefit of the doubt to not make it look so bad. You see what I'm saying?
That's why I was focused in on what he was going to do too, noting, like I said, how he has talked about civil rights and racial profiling and things like that, and then again noting that he did not support a previous Trump nominee, so it wouldn't. Him and this nominee, it just wouldn't jive. His past comments, his past non-support of another guy, it just wouldn't jive. So
do you think
I'm just like, why would he even vote to advance this guy if he had these feelings?
Do you think it was... Okay, I'll play devil's advocate. Maybe, he was still in the habitual mode of just voting according to party. You see what I'm saying? Maybe that's just a kind of a knee-jerk reaction that most representatives have. You see what I'm saying? Vote in the interest of the party. Party first. First. Like integrity second. My own conscience has to take a back seat.
Right.
Even if that conscience is based in something that's very, valuable. And in Scott's case, it is, especially based on those comments and those factors he highlighted.
Those factors,
but
right?
Maybe he slept on it, and he was like, "Damn, man, if I do this, I'm gonna look like a straight bitch."
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And I'm essentially going back on some of the stuff I highlighted. You see what I'm saying? Like I previously highlighted and far representing the opposite to that. So maybe he slept on it and like, man. I understand this party first thing, but maybe I'm gonna take a stand this one time because my conscience is getting to me. I'm not saying that that's what happened.
It wasn't the first time because, like I said, he did this before, and he didn't approve of the Trump nominee because of a similar reason. So it's just, I think before he came out earlier, I don't even that individual didn't even get to like it just I'm gonna advance his vote.
Okay, you're saying like why
it got down to the wire.
Got down to like the last 5 meters of the race. Okay, I don't
know. What counts is that in this case he did do the right thing, and it doesn't look like Thomas Farr is gonna get that nomination unless get that confirmation unless they do wait. Because, of course, the Republican Party, they did pick up 2 seats in the Senate. So it will be 53 to 47.
So you need more than, you need at least 4.
Yeah.
Because it'll send it to a tiebreaker if it's just 3.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And you know what'll happen.
It would be a bad look if they just try to wait and just push them through. It would be a bad look. I'm not sure if they will or not. It would be a bad look. But who cares about bad looks?
I was about to say, I was like, well, you really think the Republicans care about looking bad?
Yeah.
And, since, we're talking about Republicans looking bad, that just kind of foreshadows another story we'll be covering later in the show about Republicans looking bad and doing some shady things.
Yeah. Actually, that's the
you want to go there now?
Yeah,
okay, we can go there
right
now.
Up. Yeah. All right. All right. So, all across the country, progressive groups have been fighting to increase the minimum wage, and we support that initiative. It'd be wonderful if the U.S. Congress, the Senate and the House could do something on this front, could help out in some way and actually increase the federal minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. But I think that's a tall ask. I think that's a tall task. As we have seen, the needle doesn't really move when you're talking about that issue. So it's more likely to be done on a city and state level at this point. And some have gotten it done. So Michigan aimed to be the next on two initiatives. So the minimum wage was set to be increased to $12 an hour by 2022, and employers would be required to provide their employees with paid sick time. Until the GOP stepped in and actually modified what was actually going to happen. They pulled the rug out from underneath.
I think it's important for you to highlight when that rug was pulled, Will.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I'm gonna get to that. Okay. I'm gonna get to that. Right, we're gonna get to that. So, all right. So on Wednesday, in a 26-12 vote, the Michigan Senate voted to amend the provisions. All right. Under the changes, instead of raising the minimum wage to $12 per hour by 2022, wages would not reach that level until 2030. And tip workers, such as bartenders and waitstaff, who were also supposed to see a 12-hour wage more gradually, a $12 an hour wage more gradually, will see their pay rise to only $4 per hour by 2030. Paid sick time, which was supposed to accrue at a rate of 1 hour for every 30 hours worked, or 72 hours per year, was cut to 1 hour for every 40 hours worked, or 36 hours per year. So that is a very striking change. And you might wonder, Mike was alluding to it. You might wonder, like, well, how did all of this come to fruition? Like how did this come to be, right? Okay. So earlier in the year, progressive groups fought successfully to get these issues on the November ballot. They got enough signatures to get these issues on the ballot. And of course, they want them on the ballot so that voters can weigh in and actually decide, hey, is this something that we want to agree on or not? Let the voters decide, right? So in September, the GOP-led state legislature approved of these measures. The GOP state legislature said, you know what? We're signing off on it. We think it's a good idea. You know what? We're going to sign off on it. So when that happens, it gets taken off of the ballot, because why would you need the people to actually vote on it when the state legislature is like, hey, no mas, hey, we succumb. You're too powerful. Let's go ahead and do it, right? So that's what they did, and the voters didn't get a chance to weigh in on it because they didn't need to. A few days after Election Day, here comes the GOP-led state legislature, and they pull the rug from underneath.
It was like a few days after.
A few days after
the election.
Yes.
So, not only did their, I guess, pacifying what people wanted come off as fake. Sorry, it didn't come off as fake. Mm-hmm. It was fake.
It was absolutely fake.
They intended to do this for how long? You see what I'm saying?
It was early in the year.
That's what I'm saying.
It was months ago.
Months ago. So they intended to do this.
Yes. And see, okay, so this is the thing, right? The Republicans had absolutely no, they had no inkling.
Yeah, they had no interest. No interest in even going forth with this resolution.
No, but they knew what could be done, okay? So
measures.
If they waited, if they said, you know what, hey, Democratic Party and progressive groups, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and get it done. Let's get this off the ballot. Let's work to make this a thing, right? If they go ahead and say that, and then afterwards try to change it, all they need is a simple majority to actually amend it. And that's exactly what they did just days after. If they let the issues go to the November ballot and let the people decide on it, then to actually amend the provisions, they would need a 3/4 majority to actually change it. So that's much harder to get done.
It's much harder to get done considering that the outlook of, I guess, the distribution, the power distribution between parties is going to change very shortly.
Yes. And there are going to be more Democratic representatives in the Michigan legislature now.
So they're trying to get this done.
This is bullshit to epic proportions. This is corruption at its absolute finest. This is the Republican Party saying, you know what, look, we probably don't have a chance in this state. The people are probably going to vote to approve these measures. You know what we can do? We'll just screw them. We'll tell them that we're actually with them. And then after Election Day, gotcha, Lucy, take that football right away from you. Got you. You can't do nothing about it, right? So again, the incoming state legislature in Michigan is going to, I mean, it's still going to be GOP led, but there is going to be more Democratic representation. It's a chance that, progressive groups are going to be able to do the same thing, get the required amount of signatures and get it on another ballot. But when is that going to be? When is that going to be? You have people that are struggling right now that need this help right now. They need that sick time. They need an increase in the minimum wage.
And it wasn't even that much sick time. It wasn't even that much sick time. You know what I'm saying? That kind of brings attention to a harsh reality, a sad reality in America, because most people can't even afford to take sick days.
Exactly.
Most people can't even afford to take time off work. A lot of people work through sickness. Some people don't, but a lot of people work through sickness, and sometimes they work through sickness having 2 and 3 jobs because they can't take time off.
Yep.
But it is interesting because like some of the responses have been quite typical, from the business community and the GOP.
Oh, yes.
In regard to
very typical.
Them straight chopping these measures to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Things like, oh, we got to keep businesses competitive.
Right.
And I'm just
and this will hurt businesses.
It will hurt business, but I'm just thinking, I'm like the same people that are belly aching over these measures are the same ones that promote an economic system that create the need for these measures in the first place. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like we wouldn't be having this conversation if it weren't for unbalanced wealth distribution.
No, but they want the unbalanced wealth distribution.
That's the point. Like they are the ones bringing about the conversation and the need for these measures in the first place. Then they belly ache over these measures and say things like, we got to keep the businesses competitive. I'm pretty sure if you just, I guess, cut 25% of your big ass bonuses, you would be able to be competitive.
Right. And it's a myth that increasing the minimum wage is going to just kill competition, or it's going to kill business. You're going to have layoffs. That's a myth. Okay. One, as you saw on that image, this is over a course of some years. This wasn't set to take place until wasn't it 2022, right? That's about, it's about 3 years away, right? Let's say it's about 3 years away. It wasn't like, beginning of the year, everybody gets $12 an hour. No, it was going to be slowly introduced. So it's not like, and it's not just like the restaurant community, all those businesses, they were saying, oh no, we couldn't deal with this. The tip workers, we couldn't deal with this. It's not like just restaurants are going to have to be paying their workers this amount. It's everybody in the state.
Why is that important to mention, Will?
Because everybody, so workers are going to be getting more money though, right?
So what does that mean?
I think there's probably going to be more profit for businesses because people are going to have more money to spend.
So it's going to more people being paid more means more money circulated into the economy.
That's how it goes.
These businesses are going to make more money.
Yes,
most likely.
That's how. No. That's how it goes. Not most likely. That's how it goes. Especially in the middle class. When you have a healthy middle class, when you have a very strong middle class, it's the middle class that does most of the spending in this country. So when you have a strong middle class that has money in their pocket and is able to go out to eat, to go out to a movie, to maybe go on vacation, to do different things, you're going to, I guess, you're going to breathe life into the economy. This should be known, and I think it is known, but you have demagogues. You have demagogues that rattle off these talking points that don't make any sense. Daniel Atkinson is the founding director of the advocacy group Mother and Justice, and they led the effort on getting paid sick time on the ballot. She said, I'm a mom, and we have a lot of conversations with my kids about fairness. What I know for sure is not fair is that we all get sick, but only some of us can take time off to heal or take care of someone. We got 400,000 signatures, and the people weren't confused. They knew exactly what they were signing. This is not democracy. People signed a petition and expected their voice to be heard. That is the most, that's the most disgusting thing about this, because these groups actually worked together, right? They worked to get this on the ballot so that people could weigh in and say, you know what? This is my voice. I'm going to be heard. Now, it's possible that the people, the voters, were like, you know what? I don't think it's time for it. I think it's actually going to starve business. No, you know what? We're not ready for it. Decline, and it wouldn't have gone through. But at least the people would have actually voted on it. Those people that actually signed these petitions, they deserve to have their voices heard. And the Republicans screwed them.
Interesting that you say that, because the spokesperson for Governor Rick Snyder,
The outgoing Governor Rick Snyder.
The outgoing Governor Rick Snyder said that the governor will review whatever bills come to him and then make a decision on whether to sign or not based on potential benefits and impact for everyone. Now, if that was really the case, right, then why conveniently adjust the measures days after?
Just days. Just a few days.
And like you said, if it was supposedly something that was put forth for the governor to consider the benefits of everyone, then why didn't they make that consideration that you're making about all that work that was put in by all these people?
Right.
They're everyone. They're in that group of everyone.
They completely silenced them. All that work, all those signatures are for absolutely nothing. The Republicans screwed you over, and that's it. Like I said, this is complete bullshit. This is corruption. This is not a democratic process. This is none of the like. This is just corruption from the Republican Party in Michigan. So this is where we often hear a lot of disparaging comments about the Democratic Party. And I definitely agree that the Democratic Party has so much room for criticism. We criticize them. I mean, it's very commonplace for you see LTMB saying something critical of the Democratic Party. We want to see them do different things. There's a lot of situations where they engage in spineless behavior. There's a lot of situations where it's not spineless, it's just self-serving. And they just want to further their own careers. They want to expand their wallets, what have you, right? There's a lot of corruption that takes place in the Democratic Party as well. You can't say they're the same, though. You can't say that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are the same. I remember in Colorado, just earlier this year in the primaries, you remember that guy Tillerman that was trying to run for office, and Jason Crow ultimately won that seat just a few weeks ago. But he spoke to Steny Hoyer, and Steny Hoyer was basically telling him, hey, look, Jason Crow's the guy. We made, Democratic Party made a decision. You need to go ahead and get up out of here. We don't care about the democratic process. Also in Colorado, I believe this might have been 2016. Remember the Medicare for All push? Medicare for All, how they were actually trying to get Medicare for All in Colorado. And it was the Democratic Party that was fighting against that initiative. And they actually beat that initiative in Colorado. So again, we know that the Democratic Party should be blamed and should be criticized on a whole host of issues. Again, they are not the Republican Party, though.
Okay, so coming up on the 2020 elections, which is right around the corner, it will be interesting to see if, a Democratic candidate focuses on moments like this, you know what I'm saying, during their campaign. Because this is big right here.
This is huge.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's a clear window of opportunity for a progressive candidate to push a progressive economic agenda in the face of the GOP widening the wealth disparity there in Michigan.
Right. I totally
or attempting
agree. If Democrats do not capitalize on Republicans being corrupt as hell and publicly, very visibly, just blatantly in your face, just days after Election Day. This is some stuff that you often don't hear about. Stuff like this may happen. But for the Republican Party to completely bamboozle everybody and say, you know what, we're actually with you. We're with you on this initiative. We don't have to include it on the ballot. Look at that. We're with you. Then days after, they're like, you know what, scrap all of that. Scrap all of that. We're talking about
premeditated bamboozle.
We're talking, okay, so under their proposal now, the Republican proposal that they want to move forward, we're talking about the current minimum wage is $9.25 in Michigan. That would increase by 23 cents every year until 2030.
Oh, 23 cents.
That's their proposal.
Oh.
23 cents every year until 2030. tip workers that were removed from this whole process, right? They currently get $3.52 an hour, and that would increase 4 cents every year until it hit $4 an hour in 2030. 4 cents. 4 cents a year.
And by 2030, what exactly will that mean? And this is very, 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 very incremental.
Yes. Yes.
This is the epitome of incremental. 23 cents per year, and once 2030 gets here, how much will that mean?
That's the whole. We know that $12 an hour is not a living wage. $15 an hour is not a living wage.
So by 2030,
we've talked about if the minimum wage kept up with inflation and productivity, it would be far surpassing $20 an hour if it actually kept up with those things, but it hasn't. It's been suppressed. So you're talking about 2030 getting to $12 an hour. What is that actually going to equate to in 2018 dollars?
See, Will, the problem is you just a regular guy in North Carolina now, and you just like sit back and you observe politics. And I'm pretty sure you know just as much as us about economics. And you're not like an economic expert, but you say there should be a cost of living increase annually. This is something that I hear all the time from regular people that don't get paid to make these decisions, regular people that are not in a position to make changes and don't get paid to do that, and can come up with the most logical and rational remedies for like closing this economic gap we experience here in America. To me, that is that should have been a path from the beginning. That's a clear path.
It's very logical. It makes sense.
So basically, you kind of have to be intentionally.
Corrupt.
You got to be intentionally corrupt.
You have to be intentionally corrupt and slow growth and keep that 1% right up there and earning more and more and more and more. Nothing is never enough.
It doesn't take an economic genius to foresee that there will be a wide gap if cost of living goes up and what people earn does not. It's not actually that complicated. It's not.
We've talked about. Look, if you actually did do more for the middle class and for the poor, if you actually got them to the level where they could live life with the slightest bit of dignity, could actually pay for the bare necessities, that would also help those at the top as well, because they're the ones that own all these businesses, right? They would be seeing all of this profit, more profit come into their businesses because people would have more money to spend. The only thing about it, though, is that you probably would give regular people a little bit more power, though.
Regular people didn't. But I was just thinking, since we were talking about cost of living, like most of what I guess the main focus of people having a stable life is what? Having a roof over their head.
Yes.
Having a place to live. Yeah. And you just talked about people who are wealthy benefiting. So if people can afford things like a little modest vehicle or a modest apartment or a modest home, there's going to be people who are property owners.
Yes. Profiting off of.
Who own a lot of land, who will profit from that. So again, this has to be like kind of based on something intrinsically evil. You see what I'm saying? Because it just makes sense. Like if your profits will increase and your life will get better if everyone has an opportunity, then the only reason you're doing this and the only reason you're not letting it happen is because you evilism.
Exactly.
Like you see what I'm saying? Like your need to hoard all the wealth is actually like not even benefiting you.
No. To a degrry. Like I said, not financially, but in power.
See, that's what it's
power. Yes.
So yeah, that's just the means to an end.
Yeah.
The means doesn't make sense.
The means does not make
sense. But
the
ends make sense.
You got it straight up. And Moose Guy says it should be tied to the minimum wage should be tied to inflation. Yes, it should. And productivity. It should be. Again, if it was, we'd be over $20 an hour at the minimum wage. But
more money in the economy is pretty simple.
all right, so all right, let's go on to Jerry Smith.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see.
This is one of those situations that actually went right over our heads.
Yeah, man. Didn't hear about it. Didn't hear about it at all. Really, I had no knowledge of it whatsoever until
the
just
body cam footage was released.
Exactly. All right. So on August 21st, 2017, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, police officers Melvin Finkley and Adam Stahl chased a 19-year-old black man named Jerry Smith Jr. onto a rooftop. The officers were in the area when a call came in about a street fight that broke out and a man running from the scene. Police believed him to have a weapon, believed him to be armed in some capacity. In the encounter with Smith on that rooftop, the officers discharged their weapons and shot Smith 3 times. Now, Smith was not killed, but he was rendered partially paralyzed as a result. The officer said that they fired on Smith because he was reaching for a gun that he had hidden behind an air conditioning unit. So Chief Deputy District Attorney Kent Lovern decided in June, just a few months ago, that Officers Stahl and Finkley were justified in using deadly force because they believed Smith was armed or he was reaching for a gun that was behind that air conditioning unit. So there was cell phone video of the shooting, but it was inconclusive. It was very far away, and it looked like Smith was not armed, but again, it was very inconclusive. There was also other footage. It was body cam footage from the officers, but for some reason, law enforcement did not make that publicly available. Now we know why.
I like how you say for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason,
some strange reason,
they didn't release it. But again, now we know why. So it was only after a lawsuit filed by Jerry Smith Jr. was filed, and it was required. Well, it required law enforcement to turn over that video, and it was made public. And again, now we know why they were trying to hide it. So this is reporting from David Schumann of CBS 58 in Milwaukee.
He doesn't have a gun in his hand, but he was hiding behind an AC unit.
After a chase, Jerry Smith Jr. found himself on a rooftop with at least 4 Milwaukee police officers. He wasn't behind an air conditioning unit like one officer said. Then, the fateful moments that changed Jerry's life.
Now, turn around! Turn around! Get down!
Watching it in slow motion, Jerry puts his hands out to the side, nothing in them, and begins to lower himself before the sounds of the shots pierce the air.
That is the most chilling video of a shooting of an unarmed man I have ever seen.
They said, have your hands up, put your hands up, and I have my hands up.
Daniel Storm says he's working on Jerry's behalf to have federal prosecutors review this case or to have Milwaukee County's district attorney submit it to a grand jury. Earlier this year, the DA's office ruled the shooting was justified and there were no charges for the officers.
We know what's needed in this community. It's not ice cream and toys. It's accountability.
I've been going through a lot of pain since that day.
Storm says Jerry will be partially paralyzed the rest of his life. In response to a request for comment on this newly released video, MPD simply said the officers were cleared of any criminal charges.
Like the, what was said on that video, it was very chilling to see that to see that video. Jerry Smith Jr. Again, officers were called because there was a street fight, and there were many officers there on that staircase, but there were only 2 that actually made it up to the rooftop. He obviously did not have a gun in his hand. You saw from the video, he did not have a gun in his hand. He didn't have anything in his hands. He actually put his hands out like that, and he actually proceeded what he thought was to be forthcoming from the officers, like get on the ground.
Because that's what happens. People do that. People
Exactly.
actually
give themselves up.
Give themselves up, and they already know what the rap is.
Yes, you know what to do, man.
They already know what the process is. Either
Yes.
get against the wall, put your hands behind your back, or get down on the ground. And he was gone ahead and be like, man, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and make this easy on him. Assist in my own apprehension.
Exactly. He didn't make any sudden movements, any threatening movements, or anything like that. All he did, put his hands out, and he went to the ground, and he was shot for it. again, like if you did believe that he may be in possession of a gun, maybe it was in his back, maybe it was behind the air conditioning unit. Did you see how far away he was from that air conditioning unit? He wasn't anywhere close to it. He wasn't close enough to actually get his hands anywhere near it. And it was in view of the officers as well. The officers could see where his hands were going. Why did they need to shoot him 3 times? 2 of the bullets, I believe, they hit him on the lower body, and then 1 grazed his head. So it's just by sheer luck that he did not actually, that he was not actually fatally shot.
So yes, in the original statement made by police, they claimed that he was reaching for a gun behind the air conditioning unit. Now,
that was
obviously what you guys saw was something different.
Yeah, very different.
So my question is, why lie about the details of an event if you believe your approach to the situation is just and righteous? Why do you have to lie? Is that some sort of obvious attempt at trying to establish a scenario where, like, Smith surprises them? And you know what I'm saying? I had to shoot because he was going for a gun. Yeah. Like that seems like that's what that's about. You have to kind of like reinvent the situation. You know what I'm saying? To fit that I fear for my life kind of, explanation. But what did we hear the cops say when they were coming up to the roof? They knew he did not
have a weapon.
They knew he did not have a weapon.
They said he was hiding behind the air conditioning unit.
And he doesn't have a weapon. So they already knew when they were pursuing him, they were pursuing a suspect that was not armed. So this explanation that came afterwards in justification of them shooting him, it doesn't make sense. Not only is it a lie, it doesn't make sense.
What if Jerry Smith Jr. had ran towards the air conditioning unit and you couldn't see him anymore, and they shot? I still would say it was premature for them to shoot because, again, you still haven't you aren't perceiving like that your life is in jeopardy at that point. You could take cover. I mean, you could do something, but it still would have been a premature shooting. He didn't even do that. He gave himself up. He put his hands to his side, went down slowly, and he still got shot. And like I said, miraculously, he came away with his life. But to think that he's partially paralyzed, permanently partially paralyzed, is the actions of these officers are unconscionable. And the DA,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
District Attorney Kent Lovern, said that no criminal charges are going to be filed against these 2. Now, they covered up the tape, because that's what I'm going to call it. For over a year, they didn't release it. And there's good reason why they didn't, because they didn't want anybody to see that. So it's only because the lawsuit was filed is why we are seeing it. So, if there was nothing that indicates that the officers engaged in reckless behavior and a bad shoot, then you would have released it, let the public make that determination. But you didn't do that. You wanted to hide it. And to actually state, by seeing that video, that these officers should not be held criminally responsible when that is probably one of the most disgusting shootings I've seen from a police officer?
Wait a second, man. So the police department was withholding evidence from the DA at first now. Yeah. At first. But finally, when it was released, the DA's like, we still don't believe it. Time and time again, we see cops are behaving like, this is going to blow your mind, humans. You know what I'm saying?
That does blow my mind.
Where they
think that police officers are humans.
Because what humans do when they find themselves in a self-made pickle of a situation.
A self-made pickle. Yep.
Yeah, self-made pickle.
Yep.
They try to rationalize their way out of it by recreating the circumstances to, I guess, absolve themselves of blame. You see what I'm saying? That's what humans do, and cops are.
Oh my gosh. So underneath the badge and
they don't want to be guilty of anything, just like the rest of humanity. So of course they're going to lie, because that's what humans do. You know what I'm saying?
Again, man, this is disgusting. Witnesses also said that they had told the police that Jerry Smith Jr. was not armed. There was a neighbor who actually witnessed the incident before the police arrived, this street fight. And the witness said that they told they told the police that the person that Smith was allegedly fighting with was actually the one that was armed. They had a knife, and that it was at the point where the knife emerged is when Smith took off running. And so they actually tried to point the police in the direction of where the knife was tossed and like who tossed it, but the police were not interested at all in that.
Which tells me they wasn't really about that life. They wanted to go after somebody they knew that didn't really pose a threat and that didn't actually threaten their life.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? So they go after the person that they know is not a threat to their life because they ain't about that life. They ain't really about taking down the hardened criminals.
They don't want that smoke.
They don't want that, man. They don't want that, man.
But again, thankfully, you know, Jerry Smith Jr. is still alive, and he is suing. So hopefully, I think he has a magnificent case. The video alone and nothing else, but the video including the audio of other police officers saying he's not armed, he doesn't have a weapon, and then seeing his hands out to his side and him slowly going down, obeying instructions, even giving you like just assuming that the instruction is coming, like, hey, get on the ground. He's even doing you a solid, like, hey, I'm peacefully going to the ground.
I'm sparing your vocal cords.
Exactly.
I'm sparing you even got to say it, man.
And he still gets shot. At this point, what is the correct manner in which you're supposed to respond to police officers giving you orders? At this point, what do you have to do to not get shot as a black man?
How much time we got? No, how much time we got, man?
Wow, man.
Because we can talk for hours, and I'm not sure we'll be able to tease an actual answer out of that conversation.
Probably not, man. It's sick, though. And, you know, if this had to happen, I wish it happened in Philadelphia.
Oh, with Krasner.
With Larry Krasner.
With Larry Krasner.
You know?
Maybe if there was kind of Larry Krasner firewall in most cities, cops would think twice before they do that, because then they would be forfeiting their pension, their career, their reputation.
And their freedom.
And their freedom, yeah.
All right, so let's move on. Let's go to Solomon McLemore. All right, this is crazy right here. So over 2 years ago, in March of 2016, police officers responded to a report of a loud argument at an apartment in Seattle, Washington. It was the home of Solomon McLemore. So police officers instructed McLemore to open the door. McLemore refused. The request got more aggressive. Open the fucking door, one of the police officers shouted. McLemore still refused. So the period of time of the police trying to get into the residence, it was about 15 minutes. And like I said, it just got more hostile, but McLemore was not relenting. He was like, no, I'm not coming out. You're not coming in. I'm not opening the door. So eventually, after about those 15 minutes, officers broke the door down and they entered. What they found inside the apartment? Nothing. They found no reason for them to be there. They didn't find, any illegal activity, any illegal products or anything like that. They didn't find anybody hurt. They didn't find anything at all.
You know what the whole claim of we heard glass shatter sounds like? That's, to me, that's no different than like, I smell marijuana. Or there's a tree branch on your windowsill, so there's marijuana inside. That's just probably...
Give me cause.
Just invent it out of thin air.
Right.
So anybody can claim some noise came out of your home, and that's grounds for a person to, I guess, give up their rights. You see what I'm saying? And have to allow and be forced to allow cops in their house. You know what I'm saying?
Well, again,
without a search warrant.
Well, again, like I said, he didn't aid them at all. He did not let them into the house, but they did eventually break it down. So again, they didn't find anything worth them being there.
And
although they did not find anything, They still arrested him. And they arrested him and they charged him with obstructing law enforcement. And he was actually convicted. Macklemore was sentenced to 20 days house arrest.
And that's the thing. It's like, this is according to the police. There was no statements about them hearing shouting as they walked up. So they didn't hear.
This happened before they got there.
This happened before they got there. So they didn't, hear anybody shouting as they walked up.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
So he has a legal team, and he's appealing his conviction, and it's for good reason. I think he has a good case. So the reason that he is the reason that his legal team is appealing his conviction and what they are actually what they are actually objecting to is not what I immediately thought they were objecting to. So immediately I thought that they were objecting to the police having cause to actually break into the home. That's not what the issue is for this legal team. That's not what the issue is for Macklemore. That's not what they are actually challenging. They're challenging because he was arrested for obstructing justice or obstructing the police officer, obstructing law enforcement. So what they're objecting to is that Macklemore had to assist the police officers in letting them into his house. So he cited the Fourth Amendment, which protects citizens from illegal search and seizure, warrantless searches, all of that. So they're saying that, let's say Macklemore actually did try to prevent the officers from gaining entry to the house. Let's say he put some weight on the door, the officers would push it in, he was just standing there, banging the door. If that had happened, they're saying that, he would have been guilty of obstructing because officers, that was actively trying to prevent them from coming in, because officers do not have to have a warrant to enter a home if they believe that somebody is in need of assistance. Extenuating circumstances, right? Now, that's, like I said, that's key to know that. But since he didn't put any weight behind the door, he wasn't doing anything to prevent their entry, what they're objecting to is saying that it can't be constitutional or it can't be criminal that somebody does not aid in the assistance of letting you into their home. No matter if you want to get in, no matter if it's a police officer shouting for you to let them in, they should not be held criminally responsible because they don't help you along the way.
Oh, you mean like if a police officer's cruiser gets stolen, which I've seen people jump into the cruiser and then drive off. What you're saying is, like, there can't be a scenario where a cop sees me chilling in my car and, like, jumps in and go after that car. And I'd be like, nah, dog. I'm not assisting you.
No. Again, that's not criminal. And to actually charge him and then convict him of it and then sentence him to 20, whatever the sentence is, it's ridiculous. Again, like, if he had actively engaged and preventing them, that'd be one thing. But for him just to be sitting there doing nothing, they're saying that he has no requirement to aid them and get into his home. Now,
because he wasn't obstructing them.
Right.
There's no physical or, again, active obstruction going on. He just
he's just not doing anything. Now, again, would it have been easier for him to, I guess for him financially, would it have been easier for him to let them into his home? Yeah, because then you don't have to break down the door. You don't have to bust up property. You don't have to, pay those expenses. Yeah, it would have been easier. But again, is he required by law to aid them? That's on him if he doesn't want to let them in. And he has to, hey, the officers came in. Now I got to deal with this broken door. I got to deal with the apartment complex. How I might be out of my deposit now and all this. How much money am I going to have to fork over? That's on him. But you can't hold him criminally responsible. That's what this legal team is saying.
Macklemore came to the door, right? So he heard them. He just didn't open up.
Yeah.
So he's already at the door. So they claim they heard broken glass breaking, but he was already at the door. Now, again, I'm assuming that usually when something breaks, and there was actually something abusive going on. So there's something breaking, and you think there's abusive activity going on. Usually when that happens, that's in the midst of a struggle. So if he's already at the door, where would this broken glass occur? You see what I'm saying? Because usually if there's an abusive situation going on and something breaks, that usually happens in the midst of a struggle or abuse. Since he was already at the door, what they think that glass breaking was. And like you said, they went in and there was none of that. So
they didn't see like a scene where there was a struggle or anything.
So
like
basically, that whole
Nobody
thing
hurt,
that was
nothing.
a ruse. That's a ruse to get in. Now, like something that was missing from like the dozen articles I read that covered this was like who was inside. Because he said he was scared for his family, whatever, it wouldn't be good. So who was inside? Where are the details behind that? You see what I'm saying? There's no details as to, like, you know, any kind of further investigation. Because the cops came in, they didn't find anything. You see what I'm saying? Like, if the cops release a statement saying that they heard broken glass and there was no broken glass, how do you proceed with this case and side with the cops if none of the details that they claimed were present were a reality? You see what I'm saying? How can you do that?
They were upset. They were upset. They felt disrespected. You're actually not going to obey what I perceive to be my lawful command. You better open this door. You're not going to open this door. I'm going to bust down the door. Okay, police officers have every right to do that. Again, if they reasonably suspect that somebody's in need of assistance. We can't be sure that sound of broken glass or a loud argument, we can't be sure that that's accurate. But police officers have that ability. They have that leash. They can do these type of things, right? But once you get in and you don't find anything, you don't find anybody hurt, you don't find anybody screaming.
My mistake. My mistake. Damn, my bad.
You got to pay for this door because you should have let me in. This is on you. I'm out.
Oh,
right?
So you're saying it's kind of they pursued charges out of spite.
Oh, I believe so, because he didn't do what they wanted him to do. So since you got me in here, my heart rate's all jumping, you know what I'm saying? You disrespecting me, you're going to jail.
Yeah, and like statements that Macklemore made, like during trial, indicate to me that he just didn't trust the police. I think he was quoted as saying, I know he's quoted as saying it would not be good. Yeah. The cops coming here because he's again afraid for what they might do when they get in, because he knows that they're barging in there. If somebody says open the fucking door, you know, right there you're like, oh man, I ain't letting them fools in here.
I'm not
they might turn my place over. Exactly. They might invent something. They've already invested this time and energy and effort to getting in here. Mm-hmm. I've heard of people, I guess, getting their apartments raided and barged into, and the cops found nothing, and they'll be like, where the drugs at? Where the drugs at? Like they weren't even there for that. Right. But they came in there, didn't see anything, then they turned it into something else. Right. You got any drugs in here? You got any drugs? You got any weapons? Like, nah, because you want to find something. So I can understand his apprehension for not letting the cops in. Right. And then, I mean, how much trust do you think he still has?
I think it's much less.
It's much less.
I think it's much less, man. But again, so this his case is now in front of the Washington Supreme Court, and it began hearing arguments today on Thursday. So there is another case, a past case. The Washington Court of Appeals has held a case that said an individual's willful refusal to obey a lawful police order may constitute obstruction if the refusal hinders, delays, or obstructs the officer. Now, I don't know exactly what that case is referencing, but there are situations where, yes, you can be charged and convicted of obstruction of justice. You can be charged with obstructing an officer if you hinder, delay, whatever. Let's say in a case of being stopped, if an officer gives you a lawful command, you have to get out of the vehicle. In most states, you have to do that. I mean, it's like it's written, you have to do that. Judges have already ruled on that. You have to get up out of the car if a police officer says you have to. There is nothing on the books that says I have to open my door to help you in your investigation. If you have to break the door down, fine, that's on me. Again, like if that's a lawful order, if the state is behind you, if the courts are behind you and says that you can break down the door, then go have at it, Hoss. You know what I'm saying? Get in the door any way you have to. But it doesn't say that I have to help you do it. So, again, I don't know what way, the Washington Supreme Court is going to rule. I think this would just set a very bad precedent, though, because where would it stop? Because this is his home, right? You're saying that personal property, you have to provide that to police. So if anything is protected, maybe password protected,
phone, tablet.
Yes, and the police are giving you a lawful order without a warrant to say, hey, to help my investigation, you need to open this up.
I believe that
I gotta help you.
I believe that you know somebody that is suspected of crime. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever the crime is. We believe you know somebody personally, and we believe you have that person's number, and we're trying to get in contact with that person. So you need to go in your phone and get that person's number.
Because that's delaying my investigation.
You're delaying my investigation.
You're hindering my investigation.
You do not comply with that order. Again,
it would set a horrible precedent. So, again, we don't know how it's going to be ruled, but we are very hopeful that Solomon McLemore, he wins his case, and ultimately that conviction is thrown out and expunged off his record because it's absolutely ridiculous. Like we said before, and like his attorneys are saying,
how many years
they have the right? They have the right to break down the door, but they don't have the right to charge him when he doesn't help you get in the door.
How many years did he get?
Well, he didn't get any years. He got 20 days.
He
got 20 days of house arrest. So again, like the punishment is not that severe.
But he has a record.
But still,
he has a record.
Yes, it's ridiculous, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. All right, Raimundo Atisiano. Raimundo Atisiano.
He's back again.
Back again.
Yeah.
So if you don't remember that name, we covered him back in July of this year.
And we just like saying his name, too.
Yeah, Raimundo Atisiano. He's the former police chief of Biscayne Park in Florida. So again, like I said, we covered him back in July. Atisiano was accused of padding his stats, trying to make his department's numbers, their burglary numbers, look perfect.
If you can come up with another word other than padding, that would be great.
Like what?
I don't know. Because like when you pad your stats, right?
Yeah.
Like if I say, man, like if I only shoot like 25% from the 3-point line and like 50% from the free throw line and like my shots from the rest of the field like 30% and I turn the ball over a lot. Like if I'm trying to like make myself look like a better basketball player, if I'm trying to go join the team and I give him my resume, like I pad the stats by maybe adding 10 to 20 to 30 percentage points to each of those statistics.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't say I shoot 100% from the 3-point line. I don't say I shoot 100% from the free throw line. I don't say I've never turned the ball over ever in a game. You don't say that.
This dude went overboard when you're talking about like fudging statistics or pads. This dude went way overboard. So he tried to make his record look sublime, but again, it was all a sham. It was all a sham. It was all some conspiracy, really. So it all came to a head after an investigation was ordered, and several officers came forward to say that they were ordered by Chief Atisiano to pin unsolved burglaries on unsuspecting black people that may be nearby. So these black people had nothing to do with the crimes. They actually weren't real suspects. He just wanted to clear these cases and again pad his stats for his department.
And he cleared like what percentage?
Oh, okay, so let's get to that. Because again, we talked about this back in July of this year, right? So in his last full year as the police chief of Biscayne Park in Florida, it was 2013. All 19 of the department's burglary cases were solved. Now, he resigned amid this investigation in 2014. The next year, 2015, which was the first full year without the former chief of Biscayne Park, Atisiano, that year, 2015, without him, they had 19 burglaries. Again, 19 burglaries. You know how many they solved? They solved 0. Over the course of his entire reign as the police chief, they solved 29 out of 30 burglaries. Boy, man, that
You
shot
have to.
is,
You have
woo.
to. I know that
That
shot is
is
wet.
accurate, man.
That shot is wet. That's like
saying, man.
that's like a hyper Curry right there.
Yes, yes. So now he is finally going to be penalized, or actually, he was actually penalized now, which is a good thing. He's punished for his actions. Atisiano, he pleaded guilty back in September, just a few months ago, to conspiring with subordinate officers to violate individual civil rights by making false arrests. And on Tuesday, U.S. District Judge K. Michael Moore sentenced Atisiano to 36 months in prison. Atisiano's conspiracy conviction did carry a maximum sentence of 10 years. So he did get off a little bit.
So wait.
He did get off a
So
little bit.
what? So he got maybe 40% of that?
Yeah. Well, no, what? 30%.
30.
Yeah, because he was only serving 3 years. He could have served 10. Or he could have been convicted to 10. Or been sentenced to 10.
Wow, that's amazing how
Yeah.
consciously trying to destroy people, actually not just trying to destroy people's lives, he did.
Yeah.
So consciously destroying multiple people's lives got him such a lenient sentence, man.
3 out of the 10 he's sentenced to. And you know he's not actually going to serve the 3. It's
So
going to
he
be
got the
probably
lenient
half of that.
sentence, and then he's probably going to get more favorable treatment
Probably
by
so.
not even having to serve all of that time.
Most likely.
And to be honest, now, like, I think 2 of the cops that he was directing, they're serving time too.
Yes, they pleaded guilty.
They pleaded guilty, and they helped out.
Right.
With Tessiano's case.
Right.
Now, I understand that, some of the key figures, are kind of having to take responsibility for their actions, but I'm kind of left unfulfilled. Because this had to make it by a few people, right? Other than the people on the ground, other than the cops that are directly on the ground, right? You see what I'm saying?
You going somewhere? You going
Yeah,
somewhere?
because I mean, I'm glad they're being held accountable for their violations, but the prosecutors and judges had to turn a blind eye in order for all this to transpire, right?
See, I would put less on the judges. I definitely put less on the judges. But the DAs would have to comb through all the evidence, right? They would have to sift through all the evidence.
So basically, they had to be rationally and logically unfit to not see these spacious patterns, or they were complicit and didn't care.
19 of 19 burglary cases solved in 2013. All of those burglary cases, they made its way to the DA. DA was like, looks good. Good job, Atisiano. Good job, man. You're clearing a lot of cases, man. Good job.
Dog.
Good job.
This mug was the real life, even though, he's a police chief. He was like the real life Matlock.
I was about to say Matlock, yeah.
Matlock is undefeated.
You can say Columbo,
Matlock
too.
is like
You can say Columbo,
he's like
too,
the
man.
internet, straight undefeated. But for real, Columbo too, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Yeah.
Boy, those old
Catch him? They would catch him right in the last 4 minutes.
Oh, dog. No, not only that, wouldn't Matlock always somehow he would agitate the person so much on the stand they would confess right there.
Exactly.
Every episode.
Oh, damn it, I didn't even see that coming. Yeah, man.
But to me, it doesn't look as if Tessiano has taken full responsibility. I read some statements made by his defense attorney.
Okay.
Yeah. So, in his defense attorney's request for a lighter prison sentence for Tessiano, his attorney Richard DeCabo wrote in court papers that the 3 men falsely arrested in 2013 and 2014 had a history of criminal activity in the town.
Let's say that's true.
So that's why it's like,
Let's say that's true.
They were going to get caught anyway. So it's a good chance that they were guilty of it, or it's a good chance that they were going to commit a crime. So therefore, Tessiano didn't really violate the civil rights. So therefore, I'm going to submit these court papers, to request, a lighter sentence.
Hold up. But is it justice? Like, even if these 3 individuals did have long criminal records, is it justice to let them pay for a crime they didn't commit?
About to say. I was about to say that.
You got to catch them for something they did.
Again, but see, if you say they have a long, history of crime, that means they've served the time for those crimes. So,
and now they're out.
And now they're out. They paid their price. So now you're saying, now his attorney now is suggesting that serving time for a crime you didn't commit.
That's justice.
That's justice. That's acceptable. And falsifying evidence is acceptable.
Yeah,
too.
it's acceptable because these are bad guys.
These are just bad guys. But do we really think that, you know, not only Tessiano, but his attorneys, you know, do we really believe that it's only going to touch criminals?
Oh, hell no.
You see what I'm saying?
These were unsuspecting black people, specifically black people. They were instructed to pin crimes on black people. What if you couldn't find somebody in the area that had a criminal record? You don't think you would just found some darker skinned individual and be like, he looks good for it. He looks good for it. And Atisiano, he said to Judge Moore on Tuesday, quote, "When I took the job, I was not prepared. I made some very, very bad decisions." That's the worst excuse I've ever heard. You know what, man? I wasn't prepared for the job. That's why I had to pin crimes on unsuspecting black people, man. See, because I didn't, you know, I was failing at my job. I couldn't solve these crimes, so I wasn't prepared, and I had to let people know that I was capable. I was competent in my job, so I had to pin it on people.
But wait
what
a
do you
second.
want me to do?
He got the job by talking about how competent he was at doing what he said he was going to do for that city.
Oh, yes.
You see what I'm saying? When he brought his resume, he was like,
yes.
bow, 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 bow.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm going to do.
Really?
Oh, my man. I didn't realize I did that, dog.
But
damn. Brainwashed. They got me.
Yeah. But that's how he got the job.
Whack Arnold's got me. That's how he got the job. So, like, he kind of inflated who he was and his abilities.
Yeah.
And you know, stopping crime and solving crime. Mm-hmm. So that's a dumb excuse.
It's and see, again, you have to go back into his past. We talked about this too, again, when we covered it. In 2016, he agreed to leave, his post in Sunny Isles Beach. He had forged a man's name on a notice to appear in court. And so he was given the option to resign or face arrest. And he resigned. So it's not like this is like new behavior from him.
See, and so that's what makes
he just got
his
caught.
explanation even that much more disingenuous because he has built his career off of falsifying documents. His all of his stats,
it's a pattern. Yeah,
all of his stats are inflated and basically fake.
Yep.
So like, and I think that was his intention from the jump. Now, if he didn't have that past, I'd be like, maybe he was under a lot of pressure. He's still fucked up. But maybe he was under a lot of pressure. But he has that past. So that tells me he came there with the intentions of doing that. Mm-hmm. You see
what makes it even more sinister is that he specified go after black people, man. It wasn't just like find somebody with a criminal past that we can pin it on and it would look like it's real. No. Go find black people. Everybody will believe me if I say it's a black person. That's some bullshit right there. That's some bullshit. Fine. I'm gonna cut it off. There. I got more words for him. Got some more words for him, but I'm gonna cut off there. All right, let's go to the Philippines. Let's go to the Philippines. All right, so everybody's favorite president, President Rodrigo Duterte. I still don't know if I'm saying that right. I think it's Duterte.
Duterte?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I could be saying it wrong too.
But anyway, of course, he's a very controversial president because he has said many things about the war on drugs in the Philippines. He has stated, in the Philippines, it's believed that nearly 5,000 people have been killed since Duterte took office in 2016. Duterte infamously said during his campaign in 2016 that he would hunt down all drug users and sellers and, quote, dump all of you into Manila Bay and fatten all the fish there. And he has also repeatedly promised to pardon police officers who have engaged in murdering these drug users, these drug addicts, and these drug dealers as well.
If you're gonna issue some sort of bold threat like that, at least be scientifically accurate. Like, I didn't know that fish ate human beings because he said make the fish fatter. Was he going to just like grind their bodies up and
that's a common expression, like feed into the fishes.
into the fishes?
Yeah.
Like I guess talking about sharks.
I guess
Maybe
so.
those are the fishes he's talking about. Piranhas.
It's a big fish, man.
I know.
It's a big fish. But anyway, so the reason why we bring up Rodrigo Duterte is because in the Philippines now there are actually 3 officers that have been convicted of a murder. So this is from the New York Times. A Philippine court on Thursday convicted 3 police officers for the murder of a 17-year-old boy and sentenced them each to up to 40 years in prison in the first such conviction in the wave of killings prompted by President Rodrigo Duterte's war on drugs. So in this particular case, the teenager, his name was Kian Lloyd de los Santos, and he was falsely identified as a drug dealer by an informant. So the officers were captured on neighborhood video camera leading de los Santos away. Minutes later, he was found dead. Now, the officers had claimed that de los Santos had pulled a gun on him, and that's why they had to shoot him dead. But later, forensic evidence determined that de los Santos was actually shot in the fetal position. So there went the officer's story, and that's
Basically,
why they were
he
charged and
was
convicted.
executed.
He was executed
And there
in the
were-
fetal position.
In the fetal position. Apparently, there were some other people that died in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, are you surprised though? I mean, once you promote and encourage vigilante justice and extrajudicial killings, you're going to have situations where people are executed in the street.
Yeah.
You're going to have situations where people who are not even guilty of drug use or drug selling is going to get caught up in this because you no longer have order at all. You see what I'm saying? So, well, I said vigilante justice. I think it's vigilante injustice.
Oh yeah, this is injustice. This is when I read that these 3 police officers were actually going to face justice, they were actually going to be facing murder charges, and they actually were sentenced for it. My first thought was, okay, well that's good. Where's the charges for President Rodrigo Duterte?
That's exactly what I was thinking
because he is the one that is promoting this kind of violence.
Now, obviously not to the same degree, like in the Tessiano case we just got finished talking about. I'm kind of left unfulfilled as well with just these 3 officers being prosecuted because yes, they made a conscious decision to execute this young boy, but who is at the center of all this?
Exactly.
Who's the major factor is Duterte?
Who gave them the notion that they would get away with it if they did engage in this type of behavior?
And he also, because he said he would pardon any officer that gets prosecuted.
Yeah.
So what's the next recourse if he ends up pardoning these three officers? So what's the next recourse here? Because
the next recourse is that you charge Rodrigo Duterte with conspiracy.
Yeah, because he's ordering and permitting this violence. He is like, the big boss, the final boss at the end of a video game.
Exactly. It doesn't matter that he's, or we don't know that he's not, but it doesn't matter if he's actually having direct conversations with police officers like, yeah, go out there, murder all these drug addicts and these drug dealers. It's cool. I got your back. Doesn't matter if he's not doing that. Generally speaking, he's doing that to the public. He is saying this in the public space that, yo, we're going to be killing all these drug addicts. We're going to be killing all these drug dealers. We're going to feed them to the fishes, okay? So when it actually happens, does it matter if he was actually in communication directly with these police officers?
To me,
they took his direction.
To me, based on his position as president, it is direct.
Yeah.
They don't have to be in the room.
No, they don't.
He is president, so I don't.
You can make the case without it.
I don't think I guess the same thing applies to the president. If I'm just a regular person and saying something on YouTube, then no. But he is the president. He is directing people. So, like, can there be anything done? You know what I'm saying? Can something be done about this? I mean, I'm not really sure how.
That we don't know.
I'm not sure. I have no understanding or no clue how their government works. So
yeah, I
you know what I'm saying. So what can actually be done? Like how?
I don't know. In October, he said about this case, the president, he said, In the case of Keon, that student, you will know the truth, at least the version of the police in the trial. But it will not excuse or justify killing a person whose hands are raised, ready to surrender, or kneeling down, because that really is murder.
And
that is really murder.
And would they have that inclination if Duterte wouldn't have made these proclamations about, you know, murdering drug users and drug dealers? Would that have even been in their head if somebody is in a position where they're giving up? Would the inclinations to murder or basically execute somebody even be there? I doubt it.
So we're hearing a little bit of conflicting statements from President Duterte. So he has very clearly stated his goal to kill drug addicts and drug dealers. But in this particular case, he's like, oh, no, this is unacceptable. This is really murder when this guy was absolutely no threat. His hands is up or whatever like that. He wasn't threatening officers. That's really murder. So you want to kill drug addicts and drug dealers if they're what? Running away? If they're like on their feet and they're not in a fetal position or something like that? It's okay if they're not curled up in a fetal position.
I honestly don't know what he's getting at. Maybe he's trying to say, well, we're only going to kill you if, I don't know, if you're violent. But that would just apply to drug dealers, though. You know what I'm saying? We're only going to kill you if you pose an immediate threat. But again, that wouldn't just apply to drug dealers, though.
But we know what he feels about drug dealers and drug addicts. He wants to kill them all.
He didn't say.
So how are you going to kill them?
Exactly. He didn't say.
How is it going to be justified for you to kill them? I doubt they're going to be gunning for you.
He didn't make any qualifications, so you know exactly what he meant by that. How did he think this was going to go down? You see what I'm saying?
It's some bullshit right
No, he's actually, like you said, he don't want that smoke.
Nah, he don't want that smoke. Nah.
That's obvious, because why not just go ahead and stand by your chest pounding?
Exactly. It'll be very interesting if he actually pardons these three. Some people believe that he will. That would be...
But see, then, that would contradict his statements.
Exactly. Because you said that really
is murder. So if that's what he truly believes, but he still pardons them, then yeah. Yeah. So he's on that double dog dare me bullshit right there.
If that happens, again, as a prosecutor in the Philippines... The only thing you can do is try to prosecute the president.
The president.
That's the only thing that you could try to do.
Like I said, I don't know how the government works. So.
All right. All right. So we're gonna get to a story here. All right. So. If you watch LTMB live, if you have seen us for any amount of time, you know that oftentimes we talk about politics, we talk about social issues, and we do that to address, a larger conversation. If we're talking about wildfires, it's not that we want to just report news and say that, like, hey, there's 100,000 square miles that are being scorched in California. It's not just to report the news, it's to have a larger conversation about climate change. If we're talking about police brutality, police unjustifiably killing citizens, it's to have a larger conversation about criminal justice reform and accountability, things like that. So again, we don't do a lot of news reporting. We do analysis, political analysis, things like that. In this particular case that we're going to be talking about, I'm not sure what the larger conversation is.
Go ahead.
This really strikes me as cold-blooded, evil. Like, it's unimaginable. It's like, when I first read about it, it's so shocking that it's like, wow, you can't believe that this actually happens. Like, there are some humans that are capable of this kind of
humans
behavior.
do bad things to humans every day, but there's some times where it just sticks out to you, like, what? Like, what womb did she come out of?
I'm saying,
like, did this person even come out of a human womb? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't even know.
It's that bad, all right? So, on November 20th in Springfield, Missouri, 46-year-old Elizabeth McCown was running late and stuck in traffic. She was on her way to make she was on her way to make her car payment. So many people can understand that type of feeling. You know, you're running late somewhere, you get in the car, get on the road, stuck in traffic. You know, it's like, man, what the hell is going on up there? You know, like, what, is somebody watching an accident over there? Like, come on, let's move this on. Everybody can understand those type of feelings. And I can presume, or I can assume, that Elizabeth McCown was feeling the same exact way. It's just that McCown took things first to an absolutely absurd level, and then second, she exhibited her true evilness. So McCown decided to express her frustrations towards the car that was sitting directly in front of her. She started nudging the car forward a few times, hitting the other car, but softly, just trying to, you know, push it forward a little bit. So of course that didn't work, because in traffic, a traffic jam is not usually caused by one car. A traffic jam is not just two cars.
That's why it's called a jam.
A jam. It's usually like a combination of many cars. That's why you can't get around, you can't move, right? So obviously, again, this did not work.
Thank you for giving people the definition.
I had to do that.
Of what a jam is.
Yeah, exactly. I had to do that. You know, I had to explain it. She doesn't know it. Obviously, she doesn't know. Yeah. So when that didn't work, McCown decided to accelerate as fast as she could into the car in front of her. So the driver of that vehicle was 57-year-old Barbara Foster, who was on her way to volunteer at a free medical clinic. So understandably, Foster was infuriated, and she got out of her vehicle and started yelling at Elizabeth McCown. She did that before inspecting the damage. So it was here and at this moment that police say McCown confessed to devising a heinous plan. Reportedly, McCown told investigators, quote, I tricked her, you know, make her think I was going to be nice, be still and everything. McCown, instead, she accelerated her vehicle right into the body of 57-year-old Barbara Foster.
As she was checking out the damage to her rear end.
Yes, as she was inspecting that damage. So, like she said to the investigators, she was trying to play her like she was going to be nice and she was just going to not do anything. But then when she saw the opportunity, she accelerated right into her. McCown said she, quote, cut her in half. When the police arrived on the scene, Foster was unresponsive and later pronounced dead at the hospital.
Then didn't like her body get drugged quite a ways?
Yeah. So after this took place, there were many witnesses on the scene, of course, and witnesses, they've made many statements just expressing their complete shock at what was going on. Some say that they were trying to talk to her, but she wouldn't open the window. They were saying, like, you just hit somebody. Do you understand what you just did? You just hit somebody. And she would just
I know.
Yeah, she was mouthing, I know.
Like,
and then other times she just had a blank expression. So after that, McCown actually tried to flee the scene. She tried to get away. So in trying to get away, Barbara Foster was still on her vehicle. She was like connected to the vehicle in some way. So when she was trying to get away, back away, she was drugged. Barbara Foster was drugged by McCown's Mustang for about 58 feet. So once she was finally free of the vehicle, again, McCown tried to get away. She only made it a few blocks because the other witnesses that were there, they tried to prevent her from leaving. So she ended up crashing into another vehicle, and that's when witnesses were able to hold her there until the police got there. So she has now been charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action.
You know, when I was first reading the story, before I got to what she was charged with, and just looking at the details, I was like, hold up a second. Yeah, she may not have known that lady, but once she admitted that she was going to trick this person, she was going to put effort into creating some sort of atmosphere in that scenario so that the woman would go behind the car and then she would proceed to hit this woman. Yeah. To me, I was like, they better charge her with first degree because even though she didn't know that lady, it became premeditated, basically by her own admission.
No doubt. She said that she played her. She tricked her. She wanted her to feel like she was going to be nice to her, but when she saw the opportunity, quote, she cut her in half. So, like I said, that's why I set it up the way I set it up at the beginning, saying that, like, the larger conversation here, I don't know, it can go in a few different ways, but to me, like I said, what I feel is just complete shock at how evil this one individual could be. I understand, like I said, many of us can understand being in that certain situation. She wanted to get to the bank in time to make her car payment. We don't know what would happen if she wouldn't. Like, we don't know if she was, like, very late, a few months late, if she gonna lose her car at the time. We don't know what the circumstances were, but everybody can understand the feeling of, man, I got to get to this place, and it's imperative that I get to this place. I can't be stuck in this traffic. So maybe some people take chances. Maybe you've seen some people ride up on, the curb or something like that.
The shoulder.
Exactly, the shoulder. They'll cross a red light. I mean, they'll do many things if you have to get somewhere. I can't say that I've ever seen any case like this in which somebody is running late and they feel frustrated at one car that is in front of them, when there are other cars in front of them. So you know that car can't move because of the other cars in front of them. I can't say I've ever seen a case where this particular individual is so irate that they're going to kill the other person, when the other person is just mad because you hit their car. You just hit their car as fast as you could. What did you think was going to happen? It's like I said, it's unbelievable. It's reprehensible. It's all types of adjectives that I don't even have the
it sounded like
the energy.
Stephen A. Smith.
It's unconscionable, man. Her evilness is profound.
Well, see, like, my thing is like
and this is Barbara Foster, the woman that was murdered by Elizabeth McCown too. Like I said, she was 57 years old. She was a grandmother, and she was on her way to, do some good. Volunteer at a free clinic.
I'm really wondering. Was there any kind of display of behavior that kind of would give any indication that a person is capable of this? Like
in her past,
maybe, or something like that? Or something. Because this seems just so out there and outrageous. You know what I'm saying? This seems just so out there. But yeah, that's crazy, man. And I don't think there's anything larger that you can point to that would kind of encourage somebody to do this, because sometimes when, events happen where a large number of people are killed, such as, like, Las Vegas shooting, or when those people got run over by a terrorist in New York.
Yeah.
Or, like, even I can go way back, the Oklahoma City bombing. Any event like that, we tend to always, like, I don't know, craft these narratives about some sort of larger thing at play here. This woman just did something so callous and cold-blooded, and I think that there was a conversation that we had with a caller, I think it was Court, and he was talking about how sometimes people are just shitty.
Yeah.
It's not connected to anything larger, like economic anxiety or being a paid actor, or she was CIA trained. I think sometimes we do that to explain away the evils of our fellow humans. We always have to connect it to some larger scheme or some sort of something larger at play. You know what I'm saying? That is responsible for it, without just acknowledging that there's some people who are just bad human beings. Some people are just evil. They're not being influenced by some MK Ultra CIA, which is just more like the political conspiracy version of thinking that the devil is responsible for people's evil. You know what I mean?
She, look, we don't know this woman's past. I don't believe it's been reported yet. I mean, this is not that old. This is just about a week ago that this happened. So maybe there is something more to it. Maybe she did have some mental problems.
Yeah.
Maybe she does have a long history with that. And, you
She
know,
snapped.
if that is the case, maybe that does develop into a larger conversation about healthcare in this country, about mental health and us actually treating it the right way, making sure that everybody has access to healthcare, that not just access, but can actually use their healthcare, because access is not the same thing as like I have healthcare and I can use it. So maybe it can evolve into that conversation, but that would take some more information. That would take some more information about her past and maybe a troubled past. But right now on his face, like this is, like you said, it's callous, it's heartless, it's cold-blooded, it's unbelievable evil that you don't really see that often. It's this kind of evil, I think, is rare, or I guess this kind of evil I don't see that often. This is supreme type evil, man. This is not giving a damn in the world about human life at all. It's right in front of me. I'm gonna trick it, and then I'm gonna go cut it in half, just because I'm late.
I know it's not something that's like uncommon. It's not an uncommon situation to be in.
Like we talk about different things about, you know, about hate. You know, we can talk about racism and, you know, the deep-rooted nature of racism, and you just hating somebody based on the color of their skin. If that was the case here, then that wouldn't be uncommon. We've seen that many times throughout history, hating somebody just because of where they came from or what they look like. But killing somebody because you're late?
I mean, yes.
Making the decision. Not being negligent in killing somebody.
I've seen stories.
Making the decision to go kill somebody.
I've seen stories where people are doing some real heinous stuff and murdering people over some regular ass shit. You know what I'm saying? I remember reading this one case where a dude broke up with this chick, and she was just so jealous and she was so broken up about it. Dude went over to the new chick's house. Old girlfriend followed him over there with a machete. She cut the chick's arm off with the machete and basically was like, "You don't touch my man," literally, and basically cut her arm off with a machete.
Now, see, yeah, that's definitely going too far. But still, at least the anger.
It was based on something.
It was based on something. Like, this woman had never met Barbara Foster before, and you're mad at the wrong person, because if you're gonna be mad that you're stuck in traffic, my gosh, you got to be mad at everybody. You got to go get everybody, because it's not just this woman that's in front of you. She's the least of your problems because she's right next to you. She's suffering the same consequences as you. She's right next to you. Like, maybe there's something going on up ahead, some people at fault up there. But to attack somebody that you just hit and got out of their car to inspect the damage. Again, man, I don't think a lot of sense could be made of this because, like you said, how can you make sense of something, an act that is so pure evil, you know? It's disgusting, man. All right. So yeah, at this time we're gonna open this up for callers. We're gonna open up the lines.
We're gonna open up the line.
We got some lines.
Whoa. Yeah, look, there are lines.
There are lines.
This is a waiting line.
This is a waiting line. We got a queue.
Yeah, it's a queue. It's not only got multiple people picking up calls, but you know what I'm saying?
No, we ain't got all that. But yeah.
We got through a lot of topics in a short period of time.
Yeah,
man.
we did, man. We did. And now we would love to hear from you. So if you have something to say, if you have something to add to anything that we've talked about, if you have a question or comment, now is the time to be heard. The number is 669-900-6833. Again, we encourage everybody to get on the phone, call us up, and be heard. So let me just take this time to get into this environment so that we can take some calls. What is the ID number? Nope, wrong computer. Like I said, man, usually we wouldn't do a story like that because there are many stories like that where people are killed, and it's like, damn, that's messed up, man. Like, and you can't do anything but feel for their friends and their family. There's so many stories like that, but this one just, man, this one is wow, man. This one is wow.
And if like the details of the story, emerge that, she wouldn't like lose her car if she didn't make the payment, or she has still had a certain amount of days, there has to be something else, man. You know what I'm saying?
Had to be, man. It's doesn't make sense, man. That doesn't make sense.
I think, if that was the case, she kind of would have alluded to that. Because she alluded to all kinds of other things.
I guarantee, people that are saying that, man, that's a psychopath. That's a crazy person right there. That's somebody that's just pure evil. Like, the things that she said to investigators, like, yo, I played her. I tricked her. I made her believe I was going to be nice, but then when I had the opportunity, cut her in half. That's the language of a sociopath.
Yeah.
Again, we don't know what else is going on with her, but there's nothing else going on with her, and this is just one of these regular dime a dozen people in our society that did something like this, man. Wow. All right, so we got our first caller. It's from the 704. Let's bring them into the flow. Let me see here. Hold on. I think I gotta click where is it? There we go. All right, so let's welcome them onto the program. 704, you're on the air live with LTMB.
What's up? This is Will from North Carolina. How y'all doing?
What's up, Will? How you doing,
What's
man?
happening, man?
Good. I wanted to talk about something I was mentioning before. Kind of funny this came up. I think it kind of came up there at the end. And also discussion we had recently. I think kind of started going this direction. A little bit surprisingly to me, but I was talking. What I wanted to talk about was I'm going to use an article in from the Atlantic, because I think it did a pretty good job, not real detailed about the science of it or anything, but there's an article in the Atlantic that the title of it is "There's No Such Thing as Free Will, but We're Better Off Believing in It Anyway," and it goes on to say that scientists have grown steadily bolder in their claim that all human behavior can be explained through the clockwork laws of cause and effect. This shift in perception is the continuation of an intellectual revolution that began about 150 years ago, and that was referencing Charles Darwin's work called On the Origin of Species. And I believe Sir Francis Galton was his cousin, and he had kind of touched off of that. He kind of touched on questions about free will, and also says that in recent decades, research on the inner workings of the brain has helped to resolve the nature versus nurture debate, and it has dealt a further blow to the idea of free will. And there's also agreement in the scientific community that the firing of neurons determines not just some or most, but all of our thoughts, hopes, memories, and dreams. And I think I've talked before about why I think this is so important. I think we can see why, what kind of differences we would probably expect to see in a lot of areas in society, and especially our law enforcement and so-called justice institutions. I want to read a little bit more from that. We know that changes to brain chemistry can alter behavior. Otherwise, neither alcohol nor antipsychotics would have their desired effect. The same holds true for brain structure. Cases of ordinary adults becoming murderers or pedophiles after developing a brain tumor demonstrate how dependent we are on the physical properties of our gray stuff. Many scientists say that American physiologist Benjamin Libet, some people might be familiar with with his work and experiments demonstrated in the 1980s that we have no free will. It was already known that electrical activity builds up in a person's brain before she, for example, moves her hand. Libet showed that this buildup occurs before the person consciously makes a decision to move. The conscious experience of deciding to act, which we usually associate with free will, appears to be an add-on, a post-hoc reconstruction of events that occur after the brain has already set the act in motion. And, the article is much longer than that, but I think that spoke a lot to what the state of affairs in neuroscience is regarding that question. And I think it very clearly how one looks at that question, and whatever understanding a person has about our brain and human behavior, in relation to that fundamental question, really does have a big impact on the beliefs we might have and the way we look at various situations. So I just wanted to share that. I thought it was real interesting. I'll say real quick too, for myself, I find it, and this may be a function of being aware of this for quite some time, but I would find it the most strange if this weren't the case, if we did have this free will. I would find that really interesting. I think it might tear down the foundation of physics, to be honest with you, because I think what allows us to try to understand or move forward with our understanding of the universe is based on some mechanics of the universe. So I'll let you say what you might want to say.
I will say that I'm glad that you brought some resources this time. It kind of gave you the ability to clarify your point, kind of more so than normal. It's good to kind of, I guess, get some input from a major periodical. I think that's one of those subjects that I don't know if it's, I don't know, I guess, time worthy as far as our ability to, cover it. You know what I'm saying? It's just not time worthy because that's something that's just that's a question for the ages. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think we're there yet. There's nothing really that I can point to that I can really disagree with what the article said. The only problem I have with how we view these topics is our definitions of them. And so I think how we approach them is already based on how we view them. So if we view free will in a certain way, that's how we discuss it. So how we talk about certain concepts is limited based on what we already believe. So we call certain things free will. You know what I'm saying? So we determine what's free will based on what we already perceive what free will is. So in essence, we always will come back around to the question again. We will come back around to the beginning because it still, at the end of the day, doesn't really explain anything. I think the conversation of free will eliminates, I guess, responsibility. It really does. I think the conversation starts off wrong. I think that's the problem. That's why the conversation will constantly go in circles, because it comes with this assumption that human beings don't come with certain capabilities. So again, we can talk about the whole issue of free will for days. I just don't think we'll get anywhere. I just think that even a scientific approach is only going to be based on how we view it, and that's going to send us back around to the beginning. But like I said, there wasn't too much I can say I disagree with. I mean, the premise is a good premise to talk about. But yeah, we'll kind of elaborate more. I'm really not in a position right now, a mental position to kind of take this on. But maybe Will is.
Nah, I mean, well, we got some other callers that we want to get to as well. I just quickly say, you know, I kind of just wonder how deep the conversation would go about free will, because you know, would it be on a small scale? I mean, when you say free will, is it like I don't have the free will to pick up this pencil, or is it like free will, I don't have the ability to have a certain deeper type of thought process? Or I mean, it's like you said, you don't really see the merits in
because it's
engaging in the conversation.
Because it comes with the assumption that the will is limited and there is some sort of container that the will exists in. You see what I'm saying? As if human beings don't have the capability of creating their own consciousness along the way of, like, I guess, human existence. So
yeah.
It's, you know.
But like I said, maybe we'll have some time at the end to go into it, and you know, maybe some people have some you know, some comments about it in the chat section. But we appreciate you calling in, Will, man. Thanks for you know, giving us that information.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. It does help me to see where questions would be coming from. And I mostly understand what Mike was saying, but just I'll be quick. I think the only arguments I've heard from professionals or scientists are of those who really try to redefine free will, and I think that's really, I don't think a lot. I mean, not too many people take that very seriously. I think we know what that means, and I think that you know, the other big concern is, what does that do for responsibility? It's a very that is a big concern, definitely, and I think that's something that just requires us to think about, really, because I don't think us being honest about this hurt you know, responsibility and those questions. I think we all do the best we can. That's how I've always felt. Well, people accuse me of having too much faith in human beings, but I think if we can't have faith in people, what can we really have faith in? So I'll end it there. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
All right, man. We appreciate you, Will, man. You have a good weekend, man.
You too.
All right, we're going to go to 319 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
This is Stark out in Iowa.
What's going on, Stark?
Fine. Say I didn't get to call in last week when you guys were talking about Michigan water. Should I return to that topic for a minute?
When we were talking about what?
Yeah, man. Like, yeah. I think you didn't, like, we ran out of time, right?
Yeah. I used to do factories for electronics, and to clean the circuit boards, we had to use a really, really high purity water. And I used to have to maintain and design new water filtration systems for the company that we used. And it wasn't my main job, so I had to confer with experts a lot. And I'd go around the country basically having to ask different professionals what to do, what to get involved with. Sorry, my cat's on my lap and he's upset. He's throwing things. But so we're talking about, you know, Flint water, that it has a problem with lead. And the people are angry that they removed the contaminants, or they removed the chemicals from the water that kept the lead from coming off the pipes. And what I think we really lost the question is we shouldn't be adding a chemical to the water to keep the contaminants out anyway. And what they failed to say is, because I'm assuming that they don't want to ruin property values, is that half of the lead that they're getting is coming from their own house. Mm-hmm. And if all of the houses in Flint are having this situation, then that doesn't warrant good for Flint. Well, let me. I have a limited cord length, and I am having a fight with a cat. There we go. But the material, lead water is going to soak up anything that's in the pipes, and the lead keeps coming back because when you sweat the copper with lead to seal it, it's always present in the water. The longer the water sits, the worse. Saying take the test overnight, sometimes people get up during the night and flush out a little bit of the water. So it actually even tests lower than what the maximum exposure could be. Because the worst is often during the first thing in the afternoon when everybody gets home from work or school and nobody for 6 or 8 hours has run any pipes, is usually the longest period of time that the water hasn't been used. And so they're talking about the cold water. A quarter of the lead that you're going to absorb is going to be from your shower or bath because it is skin penetrable. So where's the worst place for lead? Lead has a higher solubility in hot water, so it loves to be in hot water heaters. How many people are going to sit there, run their hot water heater dry and let it refill again and then use it? So our own convenience and demand makes it a lot worse. And the fact that our regulations are meant to hide the issues, not bring them out. A lot of the municipal city people, they know that the regulations are not adequate, but their job is to prepare the water to the city regulations. So I applaud them for thinking, let's get the stuff out of the water, but not when they didn't think of the whole problem. You know, that if we change the water, the distribution pipes throughout the town have to be replaced.
Exactly.
All the pipes in the houses.
Yeah, that's what we have talked about too. The house. I mean, that's the whole issue here. I mean, that's why you have people still saying that we don't feel safe drinking the water. That's why Elon Musk came forward and said he was going to help. Yeah, we haven't heard anything else about that. But going on, you know, moving past that. But yeah, definitely you have to do more than just change the water source. I mean, that was the bare minimum that you can do, and it's not going to be the most effective job. You have to replace all the pipes in all of these homes that you messed up along the way because you wanted to be cheap and, change the water source to the Flint River. And
there's another solution. Is put out as clear as water as you can from the city and filtered at the tap. But most people are being led to believe that they can go out and buy a little filtered, stick in your refrigerator, and that water is safe, and it's not.
Yeah, that filtration system is not that good. Not that good.
Right. And in fact, I have an RO system in the house. I've got no the RO. I have no copper pipe. Mm-hmm. So from there, it's all what's called PEX. It's a plastic that doesn't give off chemicals, and it doesn't give off lead, doesn't store lead. But in making it, one of the problems is if the water runs fast enough to not be inconvenient, it's probably not clean enough to drink. Pretty good rule of thumb.
Yeah, that's probably pretty good. Yeah.
So if you can pour water into a filter and it drips through, it's probably not okay to drink.
And see, when we talked about the filtration systems as well, I keep going to Elon Musk, but if you're providing these water filtration systems to people, like how regularly are you going to be doing it? If that is the solution here, or at least temporarily the solution, you have to talk about the filters. You're talking about a filtration system that is way more advanced than I believe what they're handing out. But when you're talking about maintenance and replacing the filters, like the cost is massive. If you're not going to replace the pipes and you're just going to do the filtration systems, there's still like a whopping cost that the city is going to have to, they're going to have to face.
We looked at doing it for a small town as a charity in West Virginia, and I figured it would take several $1 million just to do the people with low income. High income people can afford the proper stuff.
Right.
The low income people, they're not making a choice to not buy the proper water filtration.
Right.
They just
They
can't
don't have
get
the
it.
means. Yeah.
And you could find a $200 water filter, RO filter on Amazon and have it in 2 days. But I think 90% of the people would give up in 2 days using a filter like that because it just drips the water coming out. It's such a small flow of water coming out that for our own personal use with my kids, we have an extra tank to let the water go out at high speed. Well, that's an extra cost. And then you go into a poverty neighborhood that people don't understand that, hey, they used to drink water from the fountain when they were a kid or water from a hose or kid. Why can't they drink it now? So they don't realize, if the kid has to, and a lot of people smoke. So they're used to thinking that, hey, I've been doing it my whole life. It can't be that bad for me. And every time you engage in a bad behavior, it doesn't seem as bad as it was. And it just, you're so used to it happening, you don't question it. It's a problem.
The smoking comparison is very apt because there are many people that have that kind of attitude. Like, hey, I've lived this long. I haven't seen any ill effects. It's not going to, it's for other people. It's not going to do anything to me. And then,
Yeah, and I hear estimates that it would take $1 billion to clean water in the entire country.
$1 billion,
and we couldn't even do half $1 billion. We couldn't even do half a Flint for that much. And so it's off. I won't take it too long. Maybe Gene's back yet.
Yeah, where's Gene at?
Yeah,
where you at, Gene? Yeah, we would love Gene to call in.
But we do have another caller waiting too, though.
Yeah, let me get off then. Let me get somebody else on there. Thanks,
well, we appreciate you calling in, man, and definitely talking about a subject that's worthy of talking about. All right, so we got 443 coming into the mix. You're on the air live with LTMB.
What's going on, fellas? Court.
What's going on?
What up, Court?
It is time for the court report.
Court report.
I wanted to talk about Rodrigo Duterte, and I wanted to talk about that woman that crashed her car into that other woman.
Yeah, word.
Well, Rodrigo Duterte, you guys were explaining how you couldn't understand how they don't go after him, how the country doesn't, well, not the country, but I guess the judges, the judiciary doesn't go after him. That's because they would all get executed or something worse.
That might be.
You know what I mean? Like that's pretty much what would happen. Like the Philippines had a civil war that we instigated back in the 19th century. That was a long time ago. Then after World War II, after the Japanese occupation of the Philippine Islands, there was all kinds of hell and poverty. And I think there was something recently. Duterte comes out of something that just occurred recently. And the last particular civil war, actual like mayors and politicians and they would go after each other with like automatic assault rifles and military hardware and stuff. Like the Philippines is no joke. Like, were you guys the ones that did the commercial, that showed the commercial where like you see Rodrigo? No, I don't think that was you. There's this commercial. He's saying Merry Christmas. He's talking to the drug dealers. He's like, but if you keep continuing on in your brutal ways, this will be the last Christmas you ever see. You know what I mean? Like you don't blame that dude for anything. And even if he does pardon those three cops, nobody's gonna say anything because they don't want to die either.
They don't want to die.
You know what I mean?
That's crazy, man. That's. I mean, look, I mean, what you're saying is definitely possible. I don't know that much about the politics and the situation in the Philippines. It's very possible that they do feel fearful of going after Rodrigo Duterte. I mean, if he has enough power that he can express that he wants to kill drug addicts and drug dealers, and the police officers actually like take that and be like, okay,
and follow through.
We're gonna do that. We're talking about thousands of people that they're talking about, like nearly 5,000 people they believe have been killed by police officers in this drug war. Like, if he has that type of power, then yeah, it might be. Nobody might want to take on that fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they might.
I mean, think about it though, fellas. Think about it. How many people have died in the drug war that America has waged across the entire globe? We could even say Duterte is just another extension of said drug war. So isn't that shocking, fellas? And can we really not see why people don't blame him for the problems he causes? The same reason that the conservatives won't blame Trump for the problems he's caused.
I
don't want to see it.
He's just doing it more
that way,
flamboyantly.
and it's best they do. It's plomo or plateau.
Yeah. Like I said, I think you make the right comparison and comparing it to the U.S., the situation and the war on drugs. Like I said, with Rodrigo Duterte, he's just doing it in a very, a very callous,
extrajudicial way.
Yeah.
He's basically using it as an arm of terror.
Exactly.
To make himself look good, like tough on crime.
Yeah.
But at least he has a motive. Now, this woman in traffic that hit this other lady, I'm like, what? I was like, that's just insane. But see, that's where shit's going now. Shit's just going to this level where people are hitting each other with their cars. Sometimes they do it for terroristic reasons, and now I figure out they do it just because they're late to pay a bill.
Wow.
That's insane. That's crazy. But it's like, if you think about it, she planned it, right? Now, if you wanted to call this woman insane, do you think that she'd have the foresight to plan it? I think you're more right about it, Will. I think it's more like it's a sociopathic thing. I think it is like she was just, maybe she was undiagnosed, or maybe she was off her meds, who knows? But, because that's just
That's
bizarre.
batshit crazy, man. That shit is batshit
That's
crazy,
why I
man.
asked if there was anything in her past, because to do something like that, to be, I guess, in response to a normal situation, she would kind of have to be, not have to be, but it's likely she was off her meds, because I'm pretty sure at her age, she's gone through stressful situations like that before, but never cracked like that. So like where, like what fell through in her mind?
And if she's sane, right? If she's sane, and again, everybody can understand you're running late, you have to get somewhere. It's a very stressful situation, but she traded in the rest of her life just to get at somebody who she perceived as like getting in her way.
So now
from
she's
doing what she
now
got to
she's
do.
gonna be really late for everything.
She's gonna be late for every damn thing, and has no freedom whatsoever.
It's amazing what the human mind will do to rationalize its own behavior. It's not that you can forgive people for the heinous stuff that they do. It's just, and all throughout history, people have had like this code of conduct when it comes to behavior in their society, which we consider taboo, and murder is considered taboo. Now, if you go out and you kill someone in the name of God and country, that is not as bad a taboo as killing an innocent woman on the highway for fuck all. Right? It's not that either one is like either better or worse. It's just we have to categorize that shit so we can keep our society maintained. You can't have people walking around willy-nilly just offing each other for stupid shit. I mean, I guess all the reasons are stupid if you want to be ideological or ideal about it. If you want to be idealistic about it, all the reasons are stupid. But in real life, that's not true. In real life, sometimes you have to kill someone because you have to defend yourself. But you don't just kill someone for just no reason whatsoever, or a stupid, pitiful reason, a petty reason, a trifling reason, a terrible reason.
That's the word. This is the definition of an absolute petty situation. Like, you're in a traffic jam. How many traffic jams have you been in your life?
And
have you ever gone off like that?
And it wasn't something like, I guess, like how the incident was sparked. It wasn't really like two people accidentally coming together, because remember, she started the nudging.
Yes.
So like as soon as she started the nudging, she knew that woman was going to get out.
Right.
So it wasn't like, oh no, an accident happened, two people's lives just like randomly came together and somebody's frustration was built on that. She actually teased this situation.
She teased her out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Like what you're talking about, like there's there's so many instances where I've heard of road rage situations where somebody gets hurt.
But that's an accident.
That's an accident. You remember the New York Jets player? He was a running back. I can't remember his name He got killed.
McKnight.
That's right.
Joe McKnight.
Joe McKnight. He got killed. I believe that was in Louisiana, right?
Yeah.
Next to New Orleans, I believe. He got killed because of a road rage incident. He got out the car. You know, this guy said he feared for his life. He shot him. Like you have seen situations like that. I haven't seen a situation where somebody is trying to coax somebody out of the vehicle.
So you know where you could see that. You know where you could see that though. You see that on battlefields. You see that look, when you go into a military conflict, you're gonna have people in that conflict that aren't mentally stable. Some of those people are going to be put there because they're not mentally stable, and they will be like a predatory killer. They will do things to like the civilian population. Like, they don't really care about an ethic or a moral. Like, a lot of soldiers would treat these particular types of soldiers with a big wide berth. Like, these are like the type of people that would kill you drop of a hat. You know what I mean? Like, that's what this lady, I guess that's kind of what she is. It's just, she just kill you at the drop of a hat. It doesn't matter. But normally you're not going to see that out in the civilian world, right? Like, you're not going to see that like every day out in the civilian world. But I mean, you hear war stories and horror stories and stuff, you know, like the Holocaust and like all kinds of different wars where you see these atrocities take place where soldiers just like, it's not even like they snap. It's like they just plan to do this awful shit to people, you know? Some of them. Right. You know, it's like you have that like that mentality. Like, people can go there when they kill something. Like, they can go to the most petty, stupid reason possible. They can do it on a scale of millions. They don't. It's like we look at it, it's like this is one incident, but if you honestly think about it and you add up how many times has that's been gone off on some crazy apeshit errand that wasn't even really important and killed millions of people.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, we were just talking about the Yemen War, and we're talking about that school bus with dozens of schools, you know, young children that were murdered, just to what? I mean, they target civilians. So how much more? How much less or more crazy is that?
To make a point.
Yeah.
It's just to make a point, and it's always been that way in war too. And like, people don't understand that about war. Like people are like, oh, we have the Geneva Conventions. People don't give a shit about the Geneva Conventions when they go to war. Like, they want to make as huge of an impression as possible to make you either stop fighting or give up. Like that, people they amaze me with their inability to understand the fluid nature of violence. You just cannot predict it, and you can't control it or set rules upon it or make it conform to your narrative about why it should occur or who should win in its outcome. None of that shit matters. You know, none of that shit matters, and we have to do it. We have to assign blame.
Yo.
And with this case, with this woman, you can't. Like, it's just, I mean, you can. I'm not saying you can't, but you can't put up on any event that would make her do that. Like, it's just out of the blue, out of nowhere, wham! That was the end of that other woman's life.
This is the type of shit though that I think about. Like, I'm the type of person where I think about many situations and like what I would do. Like, when I hear about something that happened, I'm like, okay, shit, what the hell would I do to get out of that situation? And now, because of this, I'm thinking to myself, shit, if somebody hits me in the back of my damn car, I better make sure
I'm not standing back there.
I'm not standing directly
while that person
behind
is
it.
in their car.
Yeah. I'm really thinking about this, like, damn. Like, you don't, like, who would think that you would get hit by the car that hit you?
And she didn't. The victim didn't. She definitely didn't think that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the natural thing to do.
But she plotted it. She made that. She plotted it.
Yeah.
She wanted her
She
to
said
come out there.
she acted
like
nice.
she knew she was going to come out there, and she knew that she probably was like, "Oh, I am so sorry," and like, you know, she goes to look at the back of her car, and then she kills her.
Wow.
So that's why I don't think she's insane. I think it's more like, you know, Will said, it's like a sociopathic idea that she had, like maybe the spark, like maybe Mike's right and there was like some past history, probably both right, but I don't think it's like she couldn't calculate her plan or like that kind of crazy. I think she really went through life doing okay, and then one day she was just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna kill somebody for something stupid.
I mean, this one, how old was she? How old did I say she was? Like 46 or something like that?
Yeah.
I forgot how old I said.
That's why I said it's not like she's like some
46-year-old woman.
It's not like she's like fresh human. She's been around for
No, she's had plenty of time to know like exactly what not to do.
Mm-hmm. No doubt, man. Like I said, man, we don't often do stories like that because there's a lot of pain going on out there. There's a lot of death, and I mean, there's so much out there that there's no possible way we can do it. And hold on, let me ignore that real quick. All right, we see you calling, Gene.
Yeah, we see you calling,
Gene.
Well,
I didn't even know we were logged in.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, but yeah, that's what I was saying. There's so much pain, so much death going on, so many accidents that happen, so many murders that happen. It's something that should be talked about. The evil that is inside this world, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. But this one just hit me, man. This one hit me. This one hit me, man. This one hit me.
Yeah, it's senseless. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's senseless. You can't make any sense of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, fellas, I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here. I'm gonna haul up your lines up.
All right, Court. We appreciate you calling in, man.
As always. As always.
Yep. Y'all have a good night.
All right, you too, man.
Have a good weekend, man. All right. It's time for Gene. Gene, we're able to take your call now.
Wait a second.
Oh, you got to button yourself up a little bit?
Yeah, man. I'm button myself up, man.
All right. Well, we haven't tried this yet before, so hopefully everything will work all right. Not with the new system. Hold up.
Let me get my voice ready.
Wait, hold up. You know what? I think it's coming through. Gene, can you hear us?
Hello?
Okay, see, hold on. Let's change the
audio.
The audio.
Because you're coming through the speakers on the computer.
Not on the Skype, I can't. I can hear you on the channel.
All right, hold on.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can.
Hold on 1 second. It would help if I knew where to go. That would help if I knew where to go.
You know what you're looking for.
Yeah, I know. Okay, audio and video. Here we go. All right. Don't need that. Okay, here we go. All right, so I think
I can't remember which one we chose last time.
I think it's.
It has to.
Can you guys hear me?
All right, say something. No. Nope, that's not it.
Maybe it's the because
it didn't even. Okay, hold on.
Go to the real
speakers. Yeah. There we go. All right. Gene, can you hear us? Oh, you know what? You're on the wrong mic. Gene, can you hear us? Gene, can you hear us now?
Yeah, now I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Let me make sure the audience can hear. Where's that at?
Right.
Damn, hold on. Where is that, bro?
I don't know. It's supposed to be right there. Oh, there it is.
I'm like, hold on, but nothing was there.
I know. That's just.
All right, can everybody hear Gene?
Can you guys hear me?
I think we can hear you, and I think I'm looking down here. All right, can everybody hear Gene? All right, turn down the our audio on your side though, from the computer or your mobile or something.
All right.
Can everybody hear Gene? All right, turn down the
Is that better?
our audio.
Just still too loud.
No, just mute it. Yeah, just mute us on your whatever device you're listening to us on, like the computer or your phone.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. Yeah, I think everything's good now. How you doing, Gene?
All right. I'm good. It's good to call in.
Good to hear from
you.
I know Mike
guys.
Mike is glad to hear from you.
Well, I missed most of the show because I was out and about, but I thought it'd be fun to share something that I'm excited about because here in Costa Rica, in December 1st, we're going to be celebrating our 70th year of not having a standing army.
Whoa.
I just think that's something kind of special that we're really excited about here. So we're doing all sorts of celebrations, and it's something that we're proud of. So like in 1948, the government here, actually the defense minister said, hey, we got an idea. How about we get rid of the army and we take our money and invest it in things like, imagine, education, universal health care, a social safety net, all these things. And And that's what they did. They took it to the constitutional legislation, the part of the government, and everybody said yeah. And so they that very day just eliminated it. And now the old, like the fort or the military bases, the Children's Museum. So it's been 70 years this Saturday. We have had no army. And
that sounds radical.
That sounds radical to people
radical.
who have grown up their entire lives in the United States. I almost don't even know what to say because
I never heard of that.
I've
I had no idea.
I had no idea, and no one seems to have wanted to invade that country.
Why?
Well, we're pretty good at. No, we have been invaded. We're invaded by some corporation.
That could be worse.
No, seriously. We have. I'm trying to think. There's the one. Okay, so we have certain things that we celebrate, and there's only one day that we remember from our history where it was about a battle, and it was when a man named William Walker, another sociopath, kind of like the woman that you were talking about, was paid by corporations to come and take over because they perceived us as weak, right? So what happened when he came, he went into, and Nicaragua is north of us, so he and some other men came armed and created an airstrip and came. So what happened was all the men and women got their whatever they had and started marching to him, and we fought him off, and they left, and he ended up, I think, escaping, and then he went to someplace else, some other country, and they ended up hanging him or something. So that's like our one historical battle, and it was some guy from the United States named William Walker who wanted to take over and turn everything into banana plantations or something.
Like a literal banana republic.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't work. We said, no way.
I was about to say it's a good name, but then he's a sociopath, so I was like, go ahead and say that.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think it was, if I remember correctly, in 1989, I believe it was, Panama liked what we were doing, which is the country directly south of us. Mm-hmm. And so in 1989, they also got rid of their army. And so our border between Costa Rica and Panama is the only frontier, the only border in the world that is not controlled by any military. And I just think that's kind of interesting. So I wanted to share that because I think sometimes because I used to live in the States and I was growing up and everything, and I go back and forth, and I think it's one of the advantages of being able to travel or to live in another place and know a culture is to have a different perspective. And when I watch the United States, it's such a violent country, and I think a big part of it, without being aware of it, is because the United States, which is still my country as well, because I'm a dual citizen, but so I still feel patriotic and passionate about fixing everything. I haven't abandoned it at all. I vote and everything, but I think that all these wars, I don't even know how many wars we're in. These countries affects the psyche, and there's such violence there. A friend of mine, we were talking on Skype from the States, and he was saying, Honduras, he was talking about the people walking 2,000 miles from Honduras and El Salvador to try to have a better their lives. He said, well, Honduras is so violent. And I said, are you sure? Like, compared to what? I said, like, Syria is violent, if you have a civil war. It's a very dangerous place. And I said, well, what's dangerous? The forest fires in Northern California, that's not a good place. So we looked it up, and I was surprised to discover that if you look at, so we picked homicide, intentional homicide. First was in the world, Mexico. Second, Brazil. Third was the United States. And places like Honduras, I can't remember now, it was like 14, 19. So we have this perception, Honduras, El Salvador. Yes, there are places that are violent, of course, but a big part of it is if you're trapped in this, because they have such extreme rich people and then such poverty. I can't think of the words in English. what do you call it when there's a discrepancy between rich and poor?
Wealth disparity?
The income,
Wage gap, wealth disparity.
Sounds familiar. What you're describing sounds very familiar to hear. Yeah.
Right. The United States is becoming more, and we're very conscious of that here in Costa Rica because it's expanding here as well. That we have today, finally, the strike, the teachers and people have been on strike for 3 months.
My
so
gosh.
Here is so different. If we had the things that go on, like if someone said, oh yeah, these voting machines, or we blocked these people's right, are you kidding me? The people would be furious. They'd be on the street like kicking those voting machines down the road and, smashing them. Or there's just such a difference when you're raised in a real democratic society where you believe that you have rights, like to healthcare, to a quality of life, and the United States, they want to pretend, or they think that this great democracy that we are, I have to say we as well, but in reality it's kind of like this, I can't think of the words in English, like,
it's fake.
An illusion? Is an illusion? You're trying to think of the word illusion?
It's like as though you all don't know how it could be and how much power you really have if you understood your true power as a people.
Like, okay, so the things that you're talking about, you remember when we used to talk about Catalonia, right?
Yeah.
And you remember when there were political prisoners and the people of Catalonia were pissed off and they were like, no, you got to let these people go. There were like, what, 700, like it was like 700,000 people in the streets protesting. And then you remember in South Korea, they got rid of their president because people were protesting because they were the woman was engaged in corruption. It was a scandal, and they got her up out of there. Like, this happens in other countries where the people, they do know their power because that's cultivated through just living there. But here in the United States of America is totally different. And you have so many people that are just absolutely disengaged with the whole entire process.
Maybe the focus is too much on individual power.
Yeah.
So, like, coming together coming together as a collective is not really a notion that a lot of Americans can even grasp onto. Maybe
it's not even reality.
It's individual wealth, individual freedom, individual power. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in what you're saying, and I think that one of the things here is there is a sense of family, even if you're not. It's not a perfect place. I don't want to say that Costa Rica doesn't have violence or doesn't have, robberies and things like that. But, I mean, there's a quote here, and let me think if I say in English. Let me think here. Blessed is the mother of a Costa Rican mother who knows that her son will never be a soldier when she sleeps at night. There's this thing here, there's this idea here. We call ourselves ticos, because we always say, instead of, you don't speak Spanish, but like instead of, like my name would be Jean, but they'll say Jeannie. Everything is the diminutive. We have this habit of being really sweet and saying like, I can't think of it, like mesa is table. We say mesita. Okay. So everything's ita, ito. So we call ourselves, people named us ticos and ticas. So women are tica and men are ticos. So we have this way of thinking, oh, poor this, we have to take care of them. Or you see an elderly person, you want to see someone cry. It's like, oh, what do you mean she fell down? Oh, everybody rushes over to her. Teenagers love little children. And there's this, it's a very different loving culture, but any place could be this way. It's not unique. We're really not that different. It's just that we never lost what people used to have. We were able to maintain it. This idea of community.
Jean, we have a question coming from the chat. It's Costa Rica based, and it's from Moose Gal, and she asks, does Costa Rica protect its citizens? How does Costa Rica protect its citizens if it has no military?
Well, we have now, who wants to attack us? First of all, nobody. Like our president walks around with no bodyguards. They just, I don't know. It's
crazy, right? Mind blown.
It won't like what when I was saying before, Muscal. Remember, I mentioned William Walker, and he came because these businessmen in the United States paid him and subsidized these people to come and try to invade us. This was like maybe 100 years ago. Everybody, men and women, got whatever they had, a pitchfork, a machete, a gun, whatever they had, and marched up there to defend the country. We do have a police force. So I suppose if we had to, they would, we would find, or we would go to our friends and allies and ask for help. Because we're all in this together, but we're spending our money on, we all have universal health care. We have a lower infant death rate than the United States. We have, like the World Happiness Index put us at number 12, and then the Happy Planet Index ranked us number 1 for the happiest place. And I think if you have health care and you have that safety net, and we're not rich, we don't have, when I go to the States, I'm always shocked at how much stuff people have and everybody's shopping, but I think it's sort of like this neurotic. And here, that's not a thing. Like the biggest compliment here that you could say about a man is he's humble. That is the biggest compliment. That because they don't like, here we don't admire people who show off or who are rich, or it's about, there are people like that, but I'm just saying culturally, in the United States, if a man leaves a group or walks out, oh yeah, he's a really good businessman. Oh, he's such a go-getter. Oh, he has so many great ideas and way to, it's all about money and achievement. And here it's like, people will say, oh, he's so humble. He's so kind. He's so loving. He's such a community. It's just a very different
value
perception.
System.
Yeah. And we do have that in the States. We do have communities like that. And I don't think that we recognize it and focus on it enough. So I thought I'd call in tonight and tell you guys something positive and just another way of living, and that things, anything is possible.
Well, look, we very much appreciate that, because I don't think it's too often that we do get to talk about some positive news. A lot of times it's bad news, A lot of times we talk about things in a very critical way and how things are going to have very negative results.
Things are falling apart.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's just that's the business I think that we're in, because there's so much. I think, yes, there is a lot to talk about that's good that's going on in the country, but I think too many times it's on a very small scale. What's happening on a national scale, what's happening on the large scale, is corruption and greed and all these things that
we have that sometimes here. Yeah. We have that here, but we've put 3 presidents in prison in the past.
Wow.
Because they
accountability,
because they embezzled. Yeah. Oh yeah, you would never get away with that.
Yeah, we got problems.
Yeah, there's this elitist idea that somehow we're separate. And here, what is that thing? The degree of separation? What is it?
6 degrees of separation or something?
Yeah. Here it's like 1. I can find anybody. Seriously, we're not a huge country. That is also an advantage, We're like 3 million people. So if I wanted to go have lunch with the president, I could probably wing it. I could probably seriously, because it's just if I could come up with, because I was thinking about working on a children's book about the president. We have a woman president, and our vice president, and the Alvaro is the president, and she's a woman from, her ancestors from Jamaica, so she's our Constitution is when the president leaves the country, she automatically is the president, which is kind of cool. So we're like, yay, we're gonna have this really cool black woman be president when he's gone, and so we're really proud of that too. But anyway, I just wanted to share that, and I'll let you guys go, and another time I'll call if I think of something else that maybe I'm excited about, and maybe other people want to hear about. So
I will say that.
So thanks.
Yeah, no, we thank you, because this is kind of like unordinary, actually. You know what I'm saying? To bring some news like this, especially from a foreign country.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we don't customarily get to talk about what's good in this world and accountability. When we talk about accountability, we talk about a lack of accountability. So to hear that, of course, every place in this world is going to have their bit of crime and their bit of corruption, but it seems like you're able to handle it, way more, just better than we do.
Right.
You're right that I think every place can be like what you are experiencing in Costa Rica, but damn it, I don't know how to make this place like that.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't have the answer, but I do know, like, my intuition and my belief, I truly know down to the bottom of my toes that it is possible. And it's just making people realize that it is possible, and it's not done through violence. The violence will not work. It has to be just this strong sense of, I'm sorry, you can't do that anymore, and we won't let you. Mm-hmm. But it has to be a collective.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to have to come from everyone, and everyone has to feel like they also will be taken care of. But this is all going to come together.
You're hitting that spot, man, because I don't know how many times we have talked about this on the show too. Coming out of 2016, the election, we were talking about, like, how can we get together as a people, unite? You know what I'm saying? Like, of course there's different ideologies and, on a lot of issues, people see them in different ways. But if we're talking about justice, if we're talking about accountability, if we're talking about just doing something about corruption, that's something that it doesn't matter what ideology you have. That's best for all people. Doesn't matter what walk of life you walk, that you're in. That's best for all people. So how can we actually unite around those issues? Just do something about the corruption, the money in politics, and then at least we will be having a debate that's pure and actually get to the heart of these issues and, just try to shape a path forward.
Well, I think
how can we do that?
I think you just explained it. You just explained how we get to that point. You just explained how we at least get to the point. Yeah. We may not be able to solve it immediately, but you just explained the things that we have to get over in order to get to a place where we can talk about kind of scaling down the military and doing exactly what Costa Rica is doing.
Right.
And one of the things when I was a kid, like one day my parents wanted to go to church. I'm like, I want to stay home. And they're fine. So I turned on the TV. This was in the United States. And I was watching like some UNICEF thing or something. And children were starving in Africa. And I was sitting there so sad. And this guy was interviewing a nurse. And he said, all these children, how many children died this week? And she said 4. And he said, how can you do this? And she said, and it had such an effect on me when she said this. I was 12 or something. And she said, oh, I don't have to save everyone. I just have to save one. And I thought, oh, I can do that. And then I developed this idea of thinking as I imagine a circle around me. And if I'm healthy and strong, the circle's very wide. All my neighbors, everyone has enough food. I make sure whatever it is that that circle around me needs. When I'm not healthy and I don't feel good, of course, this, something happened. I've got the flu or whatever. The circle is smaller. And if each person creates a circle, and I imagine the earth covered with these circles. And as they overlap and they cover, and soon the whole, this is this image I have that keeps me feeling positive and it keeps me going. And I feel like you two, Mike and Will, with your program, your circle expands because you can reach out into the airwaves and things. So you have the ability to create a community and to create, and I think just a suggestion to think about is to once in a while, once a week, look for something in your community that we can celebrate and say, this group overcame, or these, to look for those positive things, because I think it also is a model of what is possible rather than just always looking at. And you do that. When you talk about things, I notice you get excited about certain people and politicians and you say positive things. I'm not saying it's all negative, but just that focus to say, what's happening. That's, I think, well, anyway.
No, that advice is no. I think, I mean, your words are profound. I think that advice is well received. Like I said, we do. Oftentimes, it is about the negative because that's just what's commonplace, in our society. I think
it grabs your attention.
Yeah, it does. So I think, like what you're talking about, to purposely focus on something that's positive. I mean, that, I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, hi everyone in the chat room. You're all wonderful, and a lot of you are a little crazy, but I love you anyway.
Well, we appreciate
so good night, guys.
Thank you very much for calling in, Jean.
Yeah, for real.
All right. Good night.
Good
night, guys. Bye. Bye-bye.
All right. That was the lovely Jean. Thank you for calling in.
Oh, for real. I'm good for a couple of weeks.
I was about to say when she was saying, she was trying to say something in English. I was like, Mike might want to hear that in Spanish.
I was like, nah. I was like, no, you can say that joke in Spanish. I don't care. Say it. No, I like how she calmly and concisely kind of like lines everything up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That was a great call, man. We appreciate that, Gene. And we appreciate all our callers tonight. Snork, Will,
and Court, of course.
And Gene. Thank you very much, man. This was a great show. Straight up, this was a great show. Of course, we had that one,
really terrible story.
Yeah, terrible story.
But
man.
I think the purpose of that is to reflect on it, even though it's terrible. And we actually love the way the callers who did talk about it reflected on it.
No doubt.
So it actually still was beneficial.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even though it was a very sad state of events or a sad situation.
And when something like that happens too, I mean, it's, of course, like, man, I can't even describe what it does to you emotionally, internally. But I think, to see, like you said, like to see how people responded to that, and the pure shock and like, man, that, I mean, what's with this lack of humanity and stuff? I mean, it's like, yeah, man, we got to start coming together and doing something.
And I do think, like, even though I think you're very like kind of apprehensive about doing stories like that, because you're like, what's the good of that? But it's still allow people to talk about it in a way maybe that we like kind of hadn't considered ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Because people were throwing stuff out there, Court was throwing stuff out there, Gene was throwing stuff out there.
That's true.
Maybe we weren't thinking about, and I do think it's important to have discussions like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we should cover stories like that. I still think we should talk about free will. Maybe not now, maybe later. And one of the reasons why I said it wasn't time worthy is not because it's not a valuable topic. So this goes out to Will. It's not worthy for the format we were in at that moment. Like, we were taking calls.
Right.
Not that it, like, the context of what I meant by worthy, it's just I don't think the show could take that topic at that moment. That's something that would require like an entire show or a series of shows. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't think it was worthy as far as,
you couldn't rush that topic.
Yeah, I didn't want to rush it, so I just don't think it was worthy for the format we were in and taking calls. So yeah, I do think it's a worthy topic in general, but it wasn't worthy for the time we had. It's because it needs more time. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to Gaillard. Thank you very much for consistently supporting this show, just by you watching and you being involved, and definitely with you contributing monetarily to us, man. We appreciate it every single time. Can't thank you enough, man. We love that you support us. And we did see your message on Twitter as well, too. You put out a little message on Twitter saying, hey, check these guys out, so.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate that, Gaillard. Appreciate that you for believing in us. Look, we had one more video that we wanted to show. Before we get out of here, we had one more video that we wanted to show, because, man, this is
intense.
Boy, this is intense.
Boy, this is intense.
This is like bam in your face. This is like, do you hear what I'm saying? Intense. Right?
It was intense. It's one of those.
But it rose quickly though. It rose real quick, man. So I don't know if anybody likes the sport of boxing. I don't know if anybody likes it. It's I don't know if it's dying off. It's definitely not the sport it was in the 1990s.
Yeah, because everything was about the heavyweight.
Yeah, and now everything's about like that lower
that
class,
middleweight,
that middleweight, lightweight. That's where all the action is. So in the heavyweight class, there's an American named Deontay Wilder, a black man. I believe he's about 32, 33 years old, something like that. He has a fight scheduled on December 1st against Tyson Fury. It's just this upcoming weekend on Saturday. So why am I bringing this up? Okay. At the final press conference that was just, I believe it was just yesterday, Wilder, he fielded a question from a black reporter named Radio Raheem. And if anybody's seen Do the Right Thing, you know, it's a play on that, Radio Raheem. But anyway, so this reporter, Radio Raheem, he asked Deontay Wilder to explain what he meant by saying, quote, "Our people have been fighting against oppression for 400 years. So it didn't go well for the reporter. It didn't go well. So we're going to play the clip for you to see exactly how it went. And then, you know, we'll come back and we'll talk about it. But yeah, it didn't go well. So here it is right here.
John, Radio Raheem. Listen, man, you.
Hold up. You know what? I know exactly what the problem is. We got that. I know I heard all that. All right, so we got everything to take care of. Here we go.
Deontay, Radio Raheem. Listen, man, you said that your people have been fighting for 400 years.
Man, your people's too.
So I just want you to explain what you mean by that.
You know what I'm talking about. Y'all all know what I'm talking about, man. Don't sit up here and try to bait and not know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what the fuck I talk about when I say these things. Your people too.
Explain it. Not everybody knows what you're talking about.
Radio Raheem, I don't have to explain what's understood, man. You know what I mean by that. You know what I said by that. I ain't got to go further. And if anybody don't understand that, then God be with them. Go look up the history. Go look up the history. Shit, don't everybody believe in Google? Go Google that shit. See what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, man. You know what. I dare you to sit up there and say, explain. You know what I'm talking about, man. He's fighting people. You know we've been fighting 400 and still fighting to this day. To this day. To this day. You just sit here, you don't know what I'm talking about? Man, I'm out of here, bro. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Let's go, man. Let's go.
Radio Raheem with Deontay Wilder. We know what he's talking about.
What? To this day.
Yo,
to this day.
Yo, I'm sorry. I'm at attention. Like he got me at he got me at attention, dog. I'm just staying like this because I don't want any parts of that. I don't want any parts of that. I'm at attention. I'm at attention. Dude. All right. I'm not moving.
Dude, when I saw this video, I'm sitting straight up at attention like the teacher caught me doing something. I'm like, back straight like, damn, you feel the intensity,
I felt the intensity
straight from the camera,
I was
man.
like, no. And then when he took his sunglasses
Woo,
off.
Boy. To this day. Like, damn.
That was the climax.
Woo!
He is like,
wow.
The reverse Marshawn Lynch.
My God.
He was the reverse Marshawn Lynch right there.
Them ones said, everybody believe in Google, don't they?
Google it.
You gonna sit and tell me you don't know what
No. You know, it's like his lips were so animated. Everything.
And then the camera zoomed in on him too. Like, damn,
the camera just zoomed in on him too.
Man.
It's your people too.
It's your people
It's
too.
your people too. I was like, man, I felt like I swear there was more more hair on my chest after watching that. I swear there was. I was like, what the heck?
Oh, snap. Yo, so if we feeling intense and intimidated,
we weren't even there.
How does Radio Raheem feel?
I think he felt exhilarated because you saw it. He was like,
he's like, yeah, you know, we know what he means.
We know what he means. He did a good job of, coming back and covering up after that. But yo, I think when you sent that to me, it was like after I watched it, I felt like I was watching like a deleted scene from Amistad or like The Roots or some shit.
Hell yeah, man. Like, and then so after that too, they had an interview just between the two of them, like off to the side, like 30 minutes later, and Radio Raheem was trying to clarify like what he meant by asking them that question. He was like, yeah, I was just trying to get at, the cultural differences between you and Tyson Fury. But he was using so many words to try to get at his point, and like,
it didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense. The question didn't make sense. See, I was trying to do is like, y'all, like, you come from a culture and he comes from a culture too. And I was just trying to like, want you to talk about the clash of cultures, and both of you come from a very proud. I'm like,
this is boxing.
I was like,
this
what?
is boxing.
I was like,
it's a fight. It's an organized fight that happens all the damn time. It's not one person's culture against another person's culture. So even to that question, Deontay Wilder was like,
what are you talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's what he said. I loved when he said that, because sometimes like when like entertainers or athletes or whoever being interviewed, they're scared to like respond to someone asking them the question, because they don't want to make them feel like they're stupid, or make themselves look like they're being combative or just be honest about the questions that are being asked. Yeah. He was like, dude, I don't know what you're trying to get at.
If it don't make sense, just say it.
If it doesn't make sense, just say something, and that's what he did.
Yo, man. that was intense, man. We had to show that, man. Like I said, when I saw that, I was like,
I bet you if he lifted up his arms, you would probably see huge like wet spots like right here.
Oh, you talking about Radio Raheem?
Radio Raheem, like right here, just big wet spots.
Oh man, yo, dude, that is one of the most confrontational interviews I've ever seen.
I actually can't even like channel that much intensity to do it justice. That's like anything I do is not going to reach that level. No, because that was real.
I mean, like, you feel him though.
I feel
him because because the way that Radio Raheem asked the question, it was like he wasn't black. He was like, yo, you said your people, been a of course, like L Train say, it's a fighter in fighter mode. You asked that question at the wrong damn time. He's like, hold up, my people? No, it's your people too.
Yo, you know what? Again, that was another instance where he did something during an interview that most people don't do.
Yeah,
he was like,
don't challenge it.
It's like, okay, I'm gonna make this between, like, you're not gonna like sit here and ask me questions and stay on the outside of those questions. I'm going to include you in on this. Right. I'm going to include you in on this.
How many people get all turned upside down by the framing of a question? We see that all the time, especially on politics, CNN interviews and whatever it is. It's like the framing of the question is all bullshit, and like we'll talk about like, see, I ain't even like when Jake Tapper did that bullshit. You see that how he framed that question?
He framed the question.
But see, and see the way he was asking it. You talk about yo people, bitch, you black, man. What you talking about, man? It's our people.
Yo people too.
To this day, man. Look, yo. If I wasn't a Deontay Wilder fan before, which I kind of was, I've been following him for a little while. But after that, man, strong man. Go ahead and do your business, man. Get that win on Saturday. All right. Let me see. Anybody talking about that? Yo, that was crazy, man. All day, every day, man. Bet that dude pissed himself. Yo, straight up, man. I don't think I'm gonna watch the fight though. I haven't watched a fight.
Man, I haven't watched a fight in a minute.
A boxing fight? Yeah, I haven't watched a boxing match.
What time is it?
It's late.
Late
it's
in
probably,
the
probably 11.
I'll probably be driving anyway. You know what I'm saying?
I believe the last boxing match I saw was Pacquiao and Money Mayweather.
Oh yeah.
That was probably the last boxing match, and I actually paid for that.
I remember.
Oh,
I remember.
Man, shouldn't have paid a dime for that, man. But anyway, that's the end of the show, everybody. I hope everybody had a good time. Hope everybody enjoyed the chat, enjoyed the calls that we had. Again, thank you to Gene. Thank you to Will and Snork and Court Report. We appreciate all y'all for adding to this program. Weekend's coming. Have no idea what's coming this weekend besides the Deontay Wilder fight.
Yeah.
I have no idea what else is coming.
You got some, football.
Yeah, we got some
football games. You got some championships.
True. Yeah, college football.
Yeah,
we got some college football championships.
I'll probably try to check some of that out, but I might be.
Florida State playing? Is Florida State? Who Florida State playing?
FSU. FSU. You mean? Hold on. FSU. You mean 5-7 University?
Yeah.
5-7
University. Yeah, I think that's what I meant.
Yo, that junk is like. I don't think that's a coincidence, dog. It's like you know what I'm saying?
It set itself up, man.
Set itself up.
Anyway, man, everybody, hope you have a good weekend. Hope you can do something that brings a smile to your face. Enjoy each other's time or something like that. Watch a good movie. Something.
Yeah, spend time with your family.
No doubt, man. Because like Gene said, man, you got to find the positives. Focus on the positives. You got to have that, if you healthy and you good, have that big circle, invite other people in. That's how you turn a small community of good things into big communities of big, a good thing. So definitely some words to heed, and we appreciate Gene for that. But like I said, that's it.
Yeah.
We out. We will be back on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll try to clip some of these, clip this live stream up so we can make a few different, individual videos. One will probably be dropping a little bit later tonight from the last show, because we did post one video a few hours before we came on, but another one will be dropping probably about 11:30, something like that. So watch out for that. But with that being said, shout out to all of our patrons on patreon.com. Thank you very much. Another shout out to Gaillard for, like I said, being our financial backbone.
Oh, true that. And no, it doesn't really take much to be a financial backbone for LTMB.
Nah, man. Yeah. But anyway, everybody be good, man. We'll see you next weekend or next week. All right. Peace out.